Chapter 3662. The divine treasury has appeared. The divine kingdom has appeared. A faint sigh was heard. Qin Feiyang Duo and the white-eyed wolf immediately looked at the Feather Emperor. Although they looked down on the Feather Emperor's expression, there seemed to be a hint of sadness in his tone. "Big brother, what do you mean?" Madman looked at the little rabbit suspiciously and found that the little rabbit was looking at the Sky Bell divine treasury with a hint of sadness. Sigh. Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Master couldn't help but sigh deeply. The white-eyed wolf said angrily, "I say, you guys, can you stop sighing here? You don't understand. The divine kingdom has made a comeback. For our Sky Cloud realm, it will be a great disaster." The little rabbit shook her head. "If you don't say it, we definitely won't understand." The white-eyed wolf's face was dark. "Can't you be more straightforward? What's the point of wasting time?" The five supergiants were silent for a long time before their eyes suddenly fell on Qin Feiyang Duo and the white-eyed wolf. "What do you mean? Two people and one wolf were suspicious. Qin Feiyang, from now on let's stop fighting." The Dragon King was the first to speak, but this sentence shocked Qin Feiyang Duo and the white-eyed wolf. If it was Feng Ho or the Qilin Master who said this, they could still accept it. But the Dragon King, one must know. All along, the Dragon King had been the one who advocated getting rid of them. But now, he actually took the initiative to ask for peace? How could they not be surprised? The Dragon King said, "Don't misunderstand. This sovereign is not afraid of you guys, so I proposed a truce for the Sky Cloud realm." "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "Promise this sovereign first." The Dragon King said. "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. "All right. Now, let us formally establish an alliance. Henceforth, the Feng people, the dragons, the Qilin race, the human race, the land of buried gods, and the heavenly cloud sea have all agreed to a truce. The alliance will only end when the divine kingdom disintegrates or retreats." After saying this, the Dragon King looked at Feather Emperor, the little rabbit, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Master, asking, "None of you have any objections, right?" "No problem." Bunny shook her head. "Forming an alliance is indeed the best choice, but I really don't dare to trust the three major races anymore." Feather Emperor sneered. "Humph. We don't trust you either. But now this is the only choice." Dragon King coldly snorted. "You don't trust me? Back then, who was it that stabbed me in the back? If it weren't for you, would the human sovereign and the others have fallen? If they hadn't fallen, why would we be so worried when facing the divine kingdom?" The Feather Emperor glared at the Dragon King trio. "Yes, but regarding this matter, we have never regretted it. If we were given another chance, we would still choose to take action." Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Master spoke one after another. Qin Feiyang hurriedly interrupted them and said with an extremely impatient expression, all right. You guys can slowly quarrel in the future. Tell us the truth first. You guys talk. I'll go up and take a look." The Feather Emperor coldly looked at the Dragon King trio and instantly landed on the top of the Sky Dome. He looked up at the Sky Bell. In addition to grief, there was also a trace of anger and killing intent in his eyes. Below, at the mountain peak, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a tea table and several chairs appeared. After the Dragon King, Feng Ho, the Qilin Master, and the little rabbit sat down one after another, Qin Feiyang took out a tea set, ancient dragon god tea, and 3 jars of unparalleled divine brew. These 3 jars of unparalleled divine brew were naturally prepared for the little rabbit, the white-eyed wolf, and the frenzy. Qin Feiyang sat opposite the little rabbit and lowered his head. While brewing tea, he said, "My request is not high. I only hope that every word you guys say next is true. Now that things have come to this, there is no need for us to hide it from you. Moreover, regarding this matter, we have a clear conscience. We are not afraid of you knowing." Dragon King said. "That's good." Qin Feiyang nodded. After Qin Feiyang finished brewing tea, Dragon King squatted down and took a sip. He sighed. "This matter, we have to start from the divine kingdom." Qin Feiyang drank tea. The frenzy and the white-eyed wolf both drank tea and silently looked at the Dragon King. Dragon King asked, "Do you know what the Sky Cloud realm was like?" "We don't know." The 2 men and 1 wolf shook their heads. The original Sky Cloud realm, the eastern continent, the western continent, the northern continent, and the southern continent, these 4 continents were actually a complete continent. At that time there was no sky cloud sea, and there were no four forbidden areas, and all of this was caused by the war with the Divine Kingdom later. Dragon King said, "War?" Qin Feiyang, the frenzy, and the white-eyed wolf frowned. "That's right. The Divine Kingdom is not a good place. It is a complete world. Like your Black Tortoise realm, there are many powerful creatures inside. There are even existences that can stand shoulder to shoulder with us. Moreover, they also have sovereign divine weapons. Their numbers are not below ours." Dragon King said in a deep voice. "What?" Qin Feiyang, the frenzy, and the white-eyed wolf were shocked. So this is the true face of the Divine Kingdom. No wonder even the Dragon King and the other lords of forbidden areas are so afraid. Back then, the Divine Kingdom invaded our Sky Cloud realm and turned the entire Sky Cloud realm into an Azura battlefield. The war lasted for 1,000 years, causing the Sky Cloud realm to be plunged into misery and suffering. These 1,000 years can be said to be the darkest period of our Sky Cloud realm. Not only the human race, we dragons, Feng people, Kirin clan, Beast clan, and Sea Beast clan all suffered heavy casualties. Later, we had no choice but to form an alliance and join forces to fight against the Divine Kingdom. But even so, countless of our race's super powerhouses fell. Even the powerhouses who mastered the ultimate profound almost all died in battle. Dragon King sighed. So tragic? The white-eyed wolf was shocked. That's right. The Sky Cloud realm back then was an extremely prosperous period. Compared to the current Sky Cloud realm, it was many times stronger. Just our dragons alone had hundreds of powerhouses who mastered the ultimate profound. The human race, Feng people, Kirin clan, Beast clan, and Sea Beast clan were about the same. With such a background, we almost couldn't defeat the Divine Kingdom even if we joined forces. You can imagine how terrifying the Divine Kingdom's strength was, Dragon King said. The hearts of the two men and one wolf trembled. The dragons had hundreds of powerhouses who mastered the ultimate profound. Adding the human race, Feng people, Kirin clan, Beast clan, and Sea Beast clan, wouldn't there be at least 600 of them? One must know. In the current Sky Cloud realm, apart from the Dragon King and the other giants, the strongest person they had ever seen was the white-bearded old man. And the white-bearded old man had only reached the beginner level. Although they didn't see it with their own eyes, with their current cultivation, it wasn't difficult to imagine how tragic the battle between the Sky Cloud realm and the Divine Kingdom was when they heard the Dragon King's words. Later, under our joint efforts, we finally made the Divine Kingdom retreat. But it is also because of these 1,000 years of bloody war that the Sky Cloud realm has fallen apart, broken apart into pieces, and become like this. Similarly, the vitality of our clans has been greatly damaged. The dragons, Feng people, and Kirin clan are hidden in the 3 forbidden areas. The Beast clan is hidden in the land of burial. The Sea Beast clan is hidden in the Sky Cloud Sea. All these years we have been living in seclusion, but in fact we have been reproducing and recovering our vitality. Dragon King sighed deeply, full of bitterness. Yes, in that battle even us old guys almost died. We really didn't want to be disturbed again, so we created the 3 forbidden areas and the Sky Cloud Sea for peace. Feng Ho nodded. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Sure enough, it was an earth-shattering event. What about the land of buried gods? Does the purple gold divine dragon sealed in there have anything to do with little Qin Zi? The white-eyed wolf asked. There must be a relationship. And we have already determined that Qin Feiyang is the descendant of the purple gold divine dragon and the human emperor. Because in this world, only their descendants can have the purple gold dragon blood. The Kirin master said hoarsely. Qin Feiyang said, so when I entered the land of buried gods, I felt a familiar summon, and the power that summoned me was the purple gold divine dragon sealed in the core area? The little rabbit asked in surprise. You can feel a familiar summon in the land of buried gods? Yes. And I also feel a sense of familiarity from the Feather Emperor. Qin Feiyang nodded. Hearing this, the little rabbit and the masters of the 3 forbidden areas looked at each other. After a long time, the Dragon King sighed. Then it seems that you are their descendant, because this is the summon of the bloodline power. Qin Feiyang suddenly became excited. In that case, the purple gold divine dragon sealed in the core area was the ancestor of the Qin clan. Who is the human emperor? Madman was puzzled. The little rabbit said, The human emperor was the leader of the human race back then. His strength was heaven-defying, and he was known as the #1 person of the human race. So strong? Madman was shocked. The little rabbit said again, "Don't you want to know who the Feather Emperor is? He is the younger brother of the human emperor." What? Qin Feiyang, the Dragon King, and the white-eyed wolf looked up at the Feather Emperor standing in front of the sky bell. He was actually the younger brother of the human emperor? It is precisely because he is the younger brother of the human emperor that you feel a sense of familiarity with him as the descendant of the purple gold divine dragon and the human emperor. It is also because of this that we dare to conclude that you are their descendant, the Kirin master said hoarsely. Qin Feiyang said in a daze, "Then, don't I have to call him ancestor?" "Indeed." The little rabbit nodded. "Little Qin Zi, awesome. You are actually the descendant of the human emperor and the Feather Emperor. Then from now on, brother and little Madman will rely on you to live a good life." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Madman was also secretly speechless. This identity was really a little scary. Wait. But suddenly, Madman's expression stiffened. He lowered his head and pondered for a while before turning to look at Qin Feiyang and sending a voice transmission. "Since you are the descendant of the human emperor and the purple gold divine dragon, then isn't your ancestor, Qin Batian, their son?" Huh. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. Think about it. Although Qin Batian is in the Great Qin, his background has always been a mystery. Moreover, Qin Batian is the first ancestor of the Great Qin lineage. In this case, Qin Batian is very likely to be the son of the human emperor and the purple gold divine dragon. Madman thought to himself. Chapter 3663. It's possible, it's possible. After listening to Madman's analysis, the white-eyed wolf thought to himself, if that's the case. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself for a while. Then he sent a voice transmission with a smile. Then the ancestor should be very happy. He finally solved the mystery of his origins. Although the human sovereign realm father has already fallen, the purple gold divine dragon mother is still alive. It's a pity that he's not here now. Madman shook his head regretfully. Yeah. So many years have passed. I wonder where the two ancestors are now. Qin Feiyang nodded. Logically speaking, now the 4 forbidden areas of the Sky Cloud realm, the 4 continents, and the Sky Cloud Sea have left his footprints. The two ancestors should have received the news and returned. But now, there was no news. The conversation between the 2 people and 1 wolf was carried out in secret, so the little rabbit and the Dragon King trio didn't know. They didn't know the existence of Qin Batian, because after coming to the Sky Cloud realm for so long, Qin Batian had only appeared in front of people once. And this time, except for showing the space-time law, he didn't leave anything such as his name, purple gold dragon blood, and so on. Even now, let Qin Batian stand in front of the Dragon King and the others. They would never think that this person might be the biological son of the human emperor. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, looked up at the Dragon King and the others and asked, why was the purple gold divine dragon sealed? And who sealed it? Facing this question, the Dragon King and the other 2 lords of the forbidden areas fell silent. Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. Could it be the Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin Lord? After pondering for a moment, the Qilin Lord said, before telling you this, you must first promise us that you will never betray the Sky Cloud realm and defect to the Divine Kingdom. Betray the Sky Cloud realm? Defect to the Divine Kingdom. What does this mean? 2 people and 1 wolf looked at each other. How did he get involved in these issues? Feng Ho looked at Little Rabbit and asked, you don't have any objections to our request, right? Little Rabbit glanced at Qin Feiyang and drank her wine. She shook her head and said no. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at the little rabbit suspiciously. The Divine Kingdom was the enemy. How could Qin Feiyang betray the Sky Cloud realm and seek refuge with the Divine Kingdom? He simply could not do such a thing. Suddenly, the Feather Emperor landed in front of the table and sat beside the little rabbit. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said calmly, this decision is not a joke. Think about it carefully. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang was even more puzzled. Even the Emperor of Feathers was being so cautious. Could it be that something big was about to happen? When Dragon King heard Feather Emperor's words, he frowned and said, Feather Emperor, from what you are saying, if Qin Feiyong really seeks refuge with Scandinavia, you won't object? He has the right to choose. The Feather Emperor said. Dragon King was furious. Don't glare at me. No matter what choice he makes, I have to support him. The Feather Emperor said calmly. Feng Ho also glared at the Feather Emperor and said, but you have to know that if he really seeks refuge with the Divine Kingdom, it will be like adding wings to a tiger for the Divine Kingdom. But for our Sky Cloud realm, it will be a disaster. All right. The Feather Emperor nodded. He looked at Feng Ho and the other two lords of the three forbidden lands and said, then let me ask you, if you were Qin Feiyong, what would you choose? Hearing this, the three lords of the forbidden lands could not help but fall silent. No matter what, he has an inseparable relationship with the Divine Kingdom. We can't force him. Little Rabbit shook her head and sighed. What? I have an inseparable relationship with the Divine Kingdom. Qin Feiyong was shocked. The white-eyed wolf and the madman were also surprised. What was going on? How could a person born in the lower realm have an inseparable relationship with the Divine Kingdom? This time Qin Feiyong really didn't dare to make a rash decision. Seeing Qin Feiyong remain silent for a long time, the Feather Emperor sighed and said, let's not talk about this for now. When the Divine Kingdom descends, let him discover and accept it himself before making a decision. But if he really chooses the Divine Kingdom, it will be a hidden danger. If the Skybell Divine Treasure did not appear, we can still ignore him for the time being. But now that the Skybell Divine Treasure has appeared, and the Divine Kingdom is about to arrive, we will never allow a hidden danger to continue growing. The Dragon King spoke with a hint of murderous intent. Although Feng Ho and the Qilin Master did not speak, there was a hint of murderous intent in their eyes. You want to touch him? Then we'll have to see if you can get past me first. The Feather Emperor looked at the three lords of the forbidden areas without showing any weakness. What's going on? Qin Feiyong looked at the four people who were at each other's throats, his mind full of doubts. The little rabbit pondered for a moment, then looked at the Dragon King and the other two and said, actually, you should trust Qin Feiyong. After all, we have watched him grow up. In the face of the big picture, he is quite reliable. You can continue to protect him like this. I hope you won't regret it in the future. After saying that, the Dragon King threw away the teacup in his hand and left without looking back. Although the Dragon King's words are a bit unreasonable, it is undeniable that it is the truth. In the future, if Qin Feiyong really chooses the Divine Kingdom, then you will be the sinners of the Sky Cloud realm for all eternity. I also hope you won't regret it in the future. Feng Ho and the Qilin Master said one after another, then got up and melted into the void, disappearing without a trace. They left just like that? Qin Feiyong, the Qilin Master, and the white-eyed wolf looked at the void where the three lords of the forbidden areas had disappeared, their faces full of shock. Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor also lowered their heads and remained silent. The atmosphere at the scene was quite heavy. Big brother, old ancestor, what are you talking about? Qin Feiyong came back to his senses, looked at Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor, and asked suspiciously, even if he had to make a choice, shouldn't they tell him the reason first? Moreover, no matter how hard he racked his brains, he could not find a reason to defect to the Divine Kingdom. Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor raised their heads and looked at Qin Feiyong. The Feather Emperor's eyes were covered by divine light and could not be seen through, but there was a trace of struggle in Little Rabbit's eyes at this moment. Big brother, what do you want to do? We are sworn brothers. Qin Feiyong's heart trembled, because in Little Rabbit's struggling eyes, he faintly caught a trace of killing intent. Moreover, he had always been particularly sensitive to killing intent. At this moment in Little Rabbit's eyes, he really felt the killing intent. She actually wanted to kill him? This was not a joke. Little Rabbit was slightly stunned, then couldn't help but shake her head and smile bitterly. Really, nothing could escape from this kid's eyes. Looking at the madman and the white-eyed wolf, Little Rabbit looked at Qin Feiyong and said, as the Feather Emperor said, I will leave this matter to you to slowly discover it yourself. You are also like this? Qin Feiyong was dissatisfied. Isn't Uncle Rabbit always like this? Little Rabbit pouted, then turned around and disappeared into the mountains below with the wine jar. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but feel helpless and looked at the Feather Emperor. The Feather Emperor was silent for a long time, then looked up at the sky and said, "Do you know? Whether it is the Dragon King, Little Rabbit, or even me, we are all gambling." "Gambling on what?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Gambling on your future choice. However, I will still say the same thing. No matter what you choose, I will support you. In addition, the existence of Qin Badian, you must not let the world know about it, especially the Dragon King and the other two." The Feather Emperor reminded. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. But suddenly, he was stunned and looked at the Feather Emperor in surprise, asking, "How do you know about my ancestor?" The white-eyed wolf and the madman finally reacted. "That's right. How did this person know about the existence of Qin Badian?" The Feather Emperor smiled proudly and said, "Not only do I know about Qin Badian, but I also know about Lu Zhongyang and the others. I even know about the Fire Qilin and the Divine Beast uncle that you mentioned." The two men and the wolf looked at each other. This person knew too much. Not to mention the Fire Qilin and the Divine Beast uncle, even Lu Zhongyang. No one in the Sky Cloud domain knew about his existence. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled slightly. He looked up at the Feather Emperor's white hair and said in surprise, "Could it be that you are that mysterious person?" "Mysterious person?" The madman and the white-eyed wolf were stunned and immediately looked at the Feather Emperor's white hair. When Qin Badian and the others were forced to enter the Nether King's hell, it seemed that it was this white-haired youth who saved them. When the Fire Qilin and the Hell Godhound were trapped in the forest of gods and devils, it was also this white-haired youth who helped them. Looking at the current Feather Emperor, he also had a head of white hair and knew about Qin Badian and the others. Looking at it, it might really be him. What mysterious person? The Feather Emperor looked at the two men and the wolf suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, "It's the person who helped my ancestors in the forest of gods and devils." "I see." The Feather Emperor smiled and pondered for a moment before nodding. "It's indeed me." The two men and the wolf looked at each other in dismay. After a long time they smiled bitterly. It was really like the old saying, one can wear out iron shoes to look for something in vain, only to find it by chance. They didn't expect that the person who helped them time and time again was a close relative. The Feather Emperor was the younger brother of the Human Emperor. Naturally, he was a relative. The madman said suspiciously, "Since you already met Qin Badian, why didn't you tell him about his background? Why didn't you directly send him to the Sky Cloud domain? Why did you let him go to the Ancient domain?" At that time he was too weak. Knowing this wouldn't do him any good. The Feather Emperor shook his head. "Then how did you send them to the Ancient domain? Could it be that by grasping the ultimate profundity of the strongest law, one can really stand above the laws?" Qin Feiyang asked. By grasping the ultimate profundity of the strongest law, one can indeed stand above the laws. However, it's only limited to the laws of a single world. The Divine Ruins and the Ancient Domain are two different worlds. Therefore, even if one grasps the ultimate profundity of the strongest law, one can't directly send someone from the Divine Ruins to the Ancient Domain. The Feather Emperor shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, "In other words, one can really break the interference of the laws?" "Indeed. As long as you comprehend the ultimate profundity of the strongest law, whether it's the Divine Ruins, the Ancient Domain, or your homeland, the Great Qin, you won't be restricted by the laws. However, to go to other worlds you still have to go through a specific entrance." The Feather Emperor explained. "Understood. Then, how did you send my ancestors from the Nether King's hell to the Ancient Domain?" Qin Feiyang was curious. "Of course I need some methods. It's also because of these methods that I was able to hide in the Nether King's hell for so many years without being discovered by the guardians of the Divine Ruins." The Feather Emperor's tone was no longer indifferent. There was a loving smile on his face. Chapter 3664. What method? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at the Feather Emperor curiously. But to this the Feather Emperor just smiled. The two men and the wolf were helpless. It seemed that this was another secret that couldn't be told. Qin Feiyang asked, "Since you chose to help our ancestor hide his identity, does that mean that our ancestor is really the son of the Human Emperor?" "That's right. Because I was the one who personally sent him to the Great Qin." The Feather Emperor nodded. "What? You were the one who sent him to the Great Qin?" The two men and the wolf were shocked. This result was really unexpected. That's right. Before Big Brother passed away, he asked me to take good care of him. He also asked me to send him to the mortal world, hoping that he could be an ordinary person for the rest of his life and live an ordinary life. Because on the path of cultivation there are too many schemes and schemes. Big Brother did this for his own good. But there was no other way. He was the son of the human emperor and the purple gold divine dragon. He was born extraordinary. Even if I wanted him to be ordinary for the rest of his life, I couldn't do it. The feather emperor shook his head and smiled. You want to? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. That's right. I have to obey Big Brother's will. When I sent him to the Great Qin, I didn't leave him anything related to cultivation. But he was too outstanding. When he was 18 years old, I went to the Great Qin to visit him. I found that not only had he become a monstrous talent, but his bloodline power had also evolved into the purple gold dragon blood. At that time, I knew that even I couldn't stop his awakening. The Feather Emperor smiled like a father. Qin Feiyang asked, so, you taught him cultivation? No. The Feather Emperor shook his head. No. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. The Feather Emperor nodded and looked at the two men and the wolf, asking, do you know why the humans of the Sky Cloud realm called Big Brother the Human Emperor? Is there a need to think about it? It must be because he was the leader of the human race. The white-eyed wolf said, no. Everyone regards him as the human emperor because of his character. Big Brother is benevolent by nature, and he values relationships and righteousness. Back then, when the Divine Kingdom attacked, if it wasn't for Big Brother stepping forward bravely, the human race of the Sky Cloud realm would have long been wiped out. Since Big Brother is like this, I naturally hope that his son will be like this too. That is because I do not wish to personally create a vicious, merciless, and evil demon. So, he was secretly observing him. After a period of observation, I discovered that not only did he inherit Big Brother and sister-in-law's talent, but he also inherited their morals. Thus, in the depths of the sea of reincarnation, I faked the appearance of a divine treasury and indirectly gave him all kinds of divine items. Feather Emperor smiled. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized that the character of his ancestor was truly impeccable. Wait a minute. Divine treasures in the depths of the sea of reincarnation? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. After thinking for a moment, he finally recalled that the ancestors, the demon ancestor, and the others had said that a divine treasury had appeared in the sea of reincarnation. The space-time gate, the thieving heaven realm, the 3,000 incarnations, the broken sword. These divine items were all found in that divine treasury. Qin Feiyang asked, you mean this divine treasury was created by you back then? It seems that you already know about the divine treasury. Yes, the divine treasury was created by me. After all, with my strength, it is too easy for me to create a scene of a divine miracle. Feather Emperor nodded. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. No wonder this so-called divine treasury never appeared again. It turned out that it was not a real divine treasury. So, the space-time gate, the 3,000 incarnations, the broken sword, and the thieving heaven realm are all yours? White-eyed Wolf asked. The space-time gate and the thieving heaven realm are just ordinary divine weapons. But the 3,000 incarnations and the broken sword are different. The broken sword is Big Brother's divine weapon, called the human sovereign sword. But because of the battle with the experts of the divine kingdom, the human sovereign sword was cut into two. Feather Emperor explained. Human sovereign sword? The human sovereign's divine weapon. The two men and one wolf exchanged glances. They had already guessed that the broken sword was not simple, but they did not expect it to be so powerful. As the human sovereign's divine weapon, it was definitely a sovereign divine weapon. But because it was damaged, it could not display its peak strength. Then where is the other half of the human sovereign sword? Qin Feiyang asked. In the divine kingdom. Feather Emperor pondered for a while and sighed. Divine kingdom? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Back then, after the human sovereign sword was cut into two, Big Brother risked his life to take back the other half. The other half was taken away by the experts of the divine kingdom. Now that the divine kingdom has appeared, if the tip of the sword is still there, I will definitely take it back. Feather Emperor clenched his fists. I will help you when the time comes, Qin Feiyang said. And us. White-eyed Wolf and Frenzy also spoke. You guys? Feather Emperor looked at the two men and one wolf and shook his head with a smile. You guys should take care of yourselves first. Don't look down on us. We are still quite strong now. White-eyed Wolf was dissatisfied. Strong. Hearing this, Feather Emperor smiled and shook his head. Only when you guys comprehend the ultimate profound will you be considered strong. Only then will you have the ability to compete with the divine kingdom. Speaking of which, is the human sovereign sword in your hands now or in Qin Beishan's? Heard about it. The two men and one wolf lowered their heads and fell silent. What's wrong? Feather Emperor had a bad premonition in his heart. Qin Feiyang sighed. I dare not hide anything from old ancestor. The human sovereign sword is in Ice Dragon's hands. What? Feather Emperor's expression changed. You also know about Ice Dragon? White-eyed Wolf was suspicious. I have been lurking in the Nether King's hell for so many years. Of course I know. How could you guys be so careless and let the human sovereign sword fall into his hands? Feather Emperor was somewhat angry. It's all my fault. Qin Feiyang briefly explained what happened in the ancient world. Feather Emperor was silent for a while and shook his head. This matter can't be blamed on you, but you really have to think of a way to get the human sovereign sword back from Ice Dragon. After all, this is my big brother's divine weapon. Then are you a match for Ice Dragon? Qin Feiyang asked. No. Feather Emperor shook his head. Frenzy was shocked. If even you are a match for Ice Dragon, how strong is it? Very strong. Although I have already ascended above the laws, it has already ascended beyond the laws. These are two completely different concepts. Can even be said that it has already transcended this world. Therefore, if it were to make a move, even I wouldn't be able to fight back. Feather Emperor sighed and his words revealed a deep sense of helplessness. Transcended this world? Qin Feiyang was extremely shocked. Wasn't this the realm he had been pursuing? He didn't expect Ice Dragon to have already reached this height. Feather Emperor waved his hand. The future is hard to predict. Let's talk about it when the time comes. Let's hope so. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked. Then what about the 3,000 incarnations? Is that also your deity technique? If it's really your deity technique, why doesn't anyone from the 3 forbidden lands know about it? The 3,000 incarnations aren't ours. In the Sky Cloud realm, only me, Big Brother, and sister-in-law know about the existence of the 3,000 incarnations, Feather Emperor said. Sister-in-law was naturally referring to the purple gold divine dragon sealed in the core region of the land of buried gods. What do you mean? The two men and one wolf were suspicious. Feather Emperor was silent for a long time as if he didn't want to talk about it anymore. Let's talk about the origin of the 3,000 incarnations later. That's not right of you. How can you only speak halfway? You're deliberately leaving people hanging. The white-eyed wolf immediately glared at Feather Emperor with extreme dissatisfaction. Fortunately, Feather Emperor could be considered an ancestor of the Qin clan. Otherwise, the white-eyed wolf wouldn't dare to be so impudent. This is a painful past. I don't want to talk about it. Feather Emperor shook his head. A painful past? The two men and one wolf looked at each other, their eyes filled with suspicion. But since Feather Emperor didn't want to talk about it, they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't force Feather Emperor to tell them. They didn't have the strength to do so. The white-eyed wolf turned to look at Qin Feiyang and smirked. Mu Tianyang, demon ancestor, and Lu Zhengyang, it seems like they all benefited from your ancestor. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang didn't understand. If not for your ancestor, the God Treasury wouldn't have appeared. If the God Treasury didn't appear, would they have been able to obtain the space-time gate, the thieving heaven realm, and the 3,000 incarnations? Furthermore, Boss Feather Emperor wanted to find a chance to give these items to your ancestor. But in the end, they benefited from it. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Boss Feather Emperor? Feather Emperor's mouth twitched. This guy wasn't polite at all, directly trying to curry favor with him. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Madman heard this and looked at each other. The white-eyed wolf's words made sense. Actually, I know all these things. But I didn't care. Firstly, their relationship back then was quite good. Especially Lu Zhengyang and Qin Badian. Secondly, I believed that with Qin Baishan's ability, he would be able to take back these items sooner or later, but what I didn't expect was that Qin Badian didn't have such thoughts. In the end, it was you who took back the space-time gate and the 3,000 incarnations. I also didn't expect that our Qin clan would give birth to such a genius like you. From all aspects, you are already above Qin Badian. Even Big Brother probably didn't expect this when he was alive. Feather Emperor chuckled. Don't praise me like that, I feel embarrassed. Qin Feiyong scratched his head and laughed dryly. Feather Emperor laughed. Qin Feiyong asked curiously, then why did you hide in the Nether King's hell? Firstly, to recuperate. Back then, during the battle with the Divine Kingdom, I was greatly injured. Secondly, to wait for you. Feather Emperor said. Wait for us? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Yes. Wait for you to grow. Although I followed Big Brother's last wish and let Qin Badian be an ordinary person in the Great Qin dynasty, I have never given up on the idea of revenge. Moreover, since Qin Badian has stepped on the path of cultivation, he should naturally shoulder the responsibility that belongs to him. However, Feather Emperor looked at the sky and sighed. In the future, he will probably have a harder time making a choice than you. Another choice. The two men and one wolf frowned. What was the reason that made Qin Feiyong and Qin Badian make a choice? Chapter 3665. Sigh. The Feather Emperor was silent for a long time before he sighed and shook his head. Let's talk about the future in the future. In short, no matter what choice you make, I will support you. Qin Feiyong was silent. He didn't know what to say since he didn't understand the situation. Don't be impatient, because soon you will know everything. The Feather Emperor seemed to have seen through Qin Feiyong's thoughts and smiled faintly. All right. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. When we first saw you, senior brother, the white-eyed wolf, and I all thought that you were the owner of the land of buried gods. We didn't expect you to be in the Nether King's hell. Now, am I not the owner of the land of buried gods? The Feather Emperor smiled proudly. Qin Feiyong asked, then, can we enter the core area of the land of buried gods to take a look? Don't think so much now. Because even if you go to the core area now, you won't be able to help the purple gold divine dragon escape with your strength. Let's prepare to enter the Sky Bell divine treasure. The Feather Emperor looked up at the Sky Bell divine treasure floating in the sky and said, Enter the Sky Bell divine treasure? Qin Feiyong was slightly stunned and looked up at the Sky Bell divine treasure. There wasn't even a door, so how could he enter? The divine treasure appears, the divine kingdom appears. Do you know the meaning of this sentence? The Feather Emperor asked with a smile. We don't know. The two men and the wolf shook their heads. It means that once the Sky Bell divine treasure appears, the arrival of the divine kingdom won't be far away. In other words, the Sky Bell divine treasure is a prophecy that tells us in advance that the divine kingdom is about to arrive. And the Sky Bell divine treasure isn't directly related to the divine kingdom. It doesn't belong to the divine kingdom. It belongs to the Sky Cloud realm and is a real divine treasure. The Feather Emperor said. The two men and the wolf suddenly understood. Originally, they really thought that the Sky Bell divine treasure belonged to the divine kingdom. A real divine treasure? Wouldn't there be a lot of treasures? The Heaven Bell divine treasure not only has countless divine items, but also a sovereign divine weapon. There's even a chance to obtain the miniature version of an ultimate profound. If one's luck is heaven-defying, one might even be able to obtain the inheritance of an ultimate profound. Feather Emperor said. What? Qin Feiyong the madman and the white-eyed wolf's eyes trembled. He never expected that the Heavenly Bell divine treasure would actually have such good fortune. Last time, before the divine kingdom descended, the Heaven Bell divine treasure appeared. I entered it. I saw with my own eyes someone obtain a sovereign's weapon, a miniature of the laws. Let's put it this way. Half of the current sovereign divine weapons of the Sky Cloud realm were taken from the Heaven Bell divine treasure. Feather Emperor smiled. No way. The two men and the wolf looked at each other. I think this time the Feng people, the dragons, and the Kirans will definitely send people over. We didn't reach a truce agreement with them. Therefore, I'm guessing that Dragon King and the other two old bastards will play some tricks in the Sky Bell divine treasure. When the time comes, you must be careful. Feather Emperor warned. Originally, there was going to be a truce agreement, But because of Feather Emperor's intervention, Dragon King and the other two left in anger. The truce agreement was cancelled midway. They will personally enter the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure? The madman was bewildered. They won't. Because anyone who grasps the ultimate profound can't enter the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure. But they can let their subordinates deal with you. Feather Emperor said. So, entering the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure isn't a good thing for us? The white-eyed wolf frowned. That will depend on what Dragon King and the others think. If they really think of you as a potential danger, then with their character, they will definitely find an opportunity to eliminate you. Sigh. It's all an ill-fated relationship. Feather Emperor sighed deeply. Ill-fated relationship? The white-eyed wolf heard this and turned to look at Qin Feiyong and the madman. The two of them shrugged helplessly. It was useless to look at them, because they also didn't know what kind of ill-fated relationship made the Dragon King and the other two hate the purple gold divine dragon so much. Feather Emperor took a deep breath and looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf. He smiled and said, "But I believe that with your current strength, even the old antiques of the various races won't be able to do anything to you." The two of them and the wolf looked at each other and smiled. "You guys are still here? Do you really think my Heavenly Clouds Ocean is your headquarters?" The little rabbit flew out from the mountain below and looked at Qin Feiyong and the others with displeasure. "Even if you beg me, I don't want to come to this lousy place." Feather Emperor's tone was filled with disdain. The little rabbit was stunned. She landed on the mountain peak and said angrily, "Fine, Uncle Rabbit is begging you. Hurry up and scram." "Giving you so much face?" Feather Emperor snorted coldly. "You are still so enthusiastic?" As expected, it's easy to change mountains and rivers, but hard to change one's nature. The little rabbit pouted. Feather Emperor sneered and said, "These words are most suitable for you. After so many years, you still can't change your addiction to alcohol." "Uncle Rabbit is happy?" The little rabbit stretched out her paw and said indifferently, "Third brother, give me a jar of unparalleled divine wine to satisfy your craving." Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly and took out a jar of unparalleled divine wine and handed it to the little rabbit. The little rabbit grabbed the jar and didn't forget to look at Feather Emperor proudly before drinking. Feather Emperor rolled his eyes and pondered for a while before asking, "What agreement do you have with the dragons, the Feng people, and the Qilin race? To let them ignore the land of buried gods?" "Nonsense. At that time, I used Uncle Rabbit's divine might to intimidate them." The little rabbit smiled proudly. "I'm not joking with you." Feather Emperor was incomparably annoyed. "Fine. Actually, it's not just the land of buried gods. For you, my descendant, Uncle Rabbit and the Dragon King have long made an agreement." The little rabbit sighed. "Me?" Qin Feiyong asked. "Nonsense, if it's not you, who else could it be?" The little rabbit rolled her eyes at Qin Feiyong. "What agreement?" Qin Feiyong was suspicious. "Before you step into the sovereign realm, no matter how much trouble you juniors cause, the Dragon King, Feng Ho, the Qilin Lord, and the reclusive old antiques of the three races are not allowed to personally make a move against you. Otherwise, do you think you can live until today?" The little rabbit looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and snorted coldly. The two men and the wolf looked at each other. It turned out that the little rabbit had always been taking care of them behind the scenes. And what sworn brothers? Do you think Uncle Rabbit is so easy to fool? The reason why Uncle Rabbit pretended to be stupid is to protect you. Because as long as Uncle Rabbit becomes sworn brothers with you, the Dragon King and the rest will naturally know how important you are in Uncle Rabbit's heart. So, unless it's a last resort, they will definitely not dare to touch you. The little rabbit said. "I see." The two men and the wolf nodded in realization. Then, they looked at the little rabbit and smiled embarrassedly. In the past, they really thought that the little rabbit was easy to fool. The Feather Emperor asked, "Then what is the condition that you agreed to?" The little rabbit pondered for a while and sighed. "If you return one day, Uncle Rabbit will not interfere in the grudges between you." The Feather Emperor fell silent. "But you still interfered. Not long ago, in the land of buried gods, you were really domineering." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. "I can't help it. I can't control the power in my body." The little rabbit bared its teeth. The Feather Emperor suddenly said, "It shouldn't be that simple." "Then what else?" The little rabbit looked away. Seemed to be hiding something. I want to hear the truth. The Feather Emperor said. You are really infuriating. All right. The little rabbit glared at the Feather Emperor, nodded and sighed. Actually, Uncle Rabbit gave them 15 nomological miniatures. The 3 races each have 15 nomological miniatures. Qin Feiyong and the other 2, as well as the white-eyed wolf, looked at the little rabbit in shock. Was this for real? This little rascal had so many nomological miniatures in his hands? Thank you. However, the Feather Emperor didn't doubt it. He bowed to the little rabbit gratefully. The little rabbit waved its paw and said, No need to thank me. If there is a chance in the future, just give Uncle Rabbit more divine wine. As expected, 3 sentences can't be separated from wine. The Feather Emperor rolled his eyes. The madman came back to his senses and immediately ran to the little rabbit. He said with grievance, Big brother, you are not being nice. With so many nomological miniatures, why didn't you give us a few? That's right, that's right. The white-eyed wolf also agreed. Hasn't the Sky Bell divine treasure appeared? If you want it, you have to snatch it with your own ability. How can you reap without sowing? Besides, in order to protect you and those people in the land of buried gods, Uncle Rabbit has already lost 15 nomological miniatures. Do you know how much wealth this is? Uncle Rabbit's heart aches just thinking about it. The little rabbit snorted. Yes, yes, yes. Big brother is the greatest. Great brother, why don't you give one to each of us first? We are not greedy. Just an ordinary nomological miniatures will do. Are you tired? Come, come, come. Sit down. Little brother will give you a massage. Big brother will also give you a massage. The man and wolf were like 2 rascals. They pestered the little rabbit and refused to let go. No need. The little rabbit kicked the man and wolf away. It pointed at Qin Feiyong and said, Learn from him. Look at how sensible he is. Unlike the 2 of you who are like 2 bandits. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyong coughed dryly and chuckled. Actually, if Big Brother wants to give it to us, I won't be polite either. The little rabbit looked at the sky speechlessly. The Feather Emperor shook his head and laughed. He looked at the 2 men and wolf and warned, grasping too many nomological miniatures might not be a good thing for the 2 of you. Therefore, even if you enter the Sky Bell divine treasure and have a chance to obtain nomological miniatures, don't fuse them. Fuse? The 2 men and wolf were stunned. That's right. There are 2 types of nomological miniatures. One is comprehended by oneself. This type of nomological miniatures will automatically fuse with us. The other type is the nomological miniatures formed naturally by heaven and earth. This type of nomological miniatures requires us to fuse with them. However, the nomological miniatures formed naturally by heaven and earth are extremely rare in the world. Throughout the countless years of the Sky Cloud realm, I have only seen one type. However, there are many such nomological miniatures in the Sky Bell divine treasure. The Feather Emperor explained. Qin Feiyong asked, According to what you said, the nomological miniatures formed naturally by heaven and earth can be given to others? That's right. The little rabbit can give to the Qilin clan and the Feng people. The 15 Tao of the dragons are the nomological miniatures formed naturally by heaven and earth. The Feather Emperor nodded. Chapter 3666. Madman looked at the little rabbit curiously and asked, Where did you find so many laws? Over there. The little rabbit pouted at the Heavenly Bell divine treasure in the sky. You have also been to the Sky Bell divine treasure? Madman was surprised. Feather Emperor said, Not only has it been there, but its luck is also very heaven-defying. Luck is very heaven-defying? Madman scratched his head and suddenly thought of something. He said in shock, Could it be that you directly obtained the ultimate inheritance in the Sky Bell divine treasure? What does it have to do with you? The little rabbit raised its eyebrows and looked at Feather Emperor. Who told you to talk so much? Can you take care of your own matters? Feather Emperor's mouth twitched. He looked at Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf and said, For now, don't think too much. Comprehend the ultimate profound. After saying that, he turned and left. Old ancestor, where are you going? Qin Feiyong asked anxiously. Land of buried gods. Feather Emperor replied without turning his head and disappeared from Qin Feiyang's sight. Sigh. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Although he had solved many mysteries this time, there were still a few biggest mysteries that hadn't been solved. Why was the purple gold divine dragon sealed? And who was the one who sealed it? He had thought that it was Dragon King and the other two, but no one could confirm it, so he didn't dare to jump to conclusions. Also, where did the 3,000 clones come from? Why would Dragon King and the others be worried that he would join the Divine Kingdom in the future? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang turned to the little rabbit and asked, "Big brother, other than you and Feather Emperor, Dragon King, Feng Ho and the Qilin Lord, who else knows about the Divine Kingdom?" There are many people who know about the Divine Kingdom. For example, the Feng people, the dragons, and the Qilin clan's patriarchs all know about the Divine Kingdom. However, not many people know about the death of the human emperor, and the reason why the purple gold divine dragon was sealed. Other than us, only those reclusive old antiques. Little Rabbit said. How many hidden antiques are there in the sky cloud realm? Madman was curious. Because with the little rabbit's cultivation, the secluded old antiques that it spoke of were definitely existences that had grasped the ultimate profundities. Not as much as before. However, it will also exceed your imagination. Don't think about these questions now. What you should do now is to improve your strength. Do you understand? The little rabbit glared at the two people and the wolf. Understood. The two men and one wolf nodded repeatedly. In short, the arrival of the Divine Kingdom is a disaster for every living being in the Sky Cloud realm. We have to go all out. Especially Little Lunatic and White-Eyed Wolf. The two of you have great responsibilities. Grow up quickly because the future will depend on you. Little Rabbit looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf, her eyes flashing. Both of us have great responsibilities. The man and the wolf were stunned. Nonsense. Qin Feiyang and Qin Badian are two unknowns. If we can't count on them, then we can only count on the two of you. Your methods are very heaven-defying. In the future, you will definitely become one of the main forces. Little Rabbit said. You think so highly of us? The madman and the white-eyed wolf laughed. They didn't expect this little rabbit to have such great expectations for them. How did I become an unknown? But at the same time, Qin Feiyang was extremely puzzled. First, the Dragon King and the other two wanted him to make a promise. Then, the Feather Emperor said that they were all betting on his future choice. Now, even the little rabbit said that he was an unknown? What was the reason? Why couldn't they just tell him? Little Rabbit glared at the madman and the white-eyed wolf, waving her paw and said, In half a year, the Sky Bell Divine Treasure will open. You two quickly go and adjust your state. And you, Qin Feiyang, no matter what, Uncle Rabbit is still in the hands of the Dragon King. Thank you. Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. Although the little rabbit had the intention to kill him before, she had always been concerned about him. Just based on this point, she was worthy of his respect. Sigh. The little rabbit sighed and once again disappeared into the mountains below. Divine Kingdom, Sky Bell Divine Treasure, Human Emperor, Feather Emperor, Epitome of Law. These people, these things are really beyond imagination. The madman shook his head and sighed. Yes. Who would have thought that so many major events had happened in the Sky Cloud realm? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf also sighed for a while. Suddenly, the madman looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and asked, Did you notice a strange place? What strange place? One man and one wolf came back to their senses and looked at him suspiciously. When we were talking about the fall of the human emperor, it wasn't difficult to judge from the words of the Feather Emperor that the death of the human emperor must be related to the Dragon King and the other two. But the Dragon King and the other two repeatedly stated that they have a clear conscience and don't regret doing so. Isn't this strange? The madman frowned. It is a bit strange. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded. It seems that there is a secret that is hard to talk about. The white-eyed wolf whispered. The madman nodded and said, If the death of the human emperor is really related to the Dragon King and the other two, then would the purple gold divine dragon also be sealed in the land of buried gods by them? Maybe. Qin Feiyang sighed. To tell the truth, even if it was the purple gold divine dragon sealed by the Dragon King and the other two, he was powerless now. Moreover, the meaning of the Feather Emperor was also very obvious. He didn't want him to intervene in this matter. Irritating. Let's go to the Black Tortoise world. The madman waved his hand. The more he thought about it, the more his head hurt. At the same time, the Western continent, Southern continent, Northern continent, and Eastern continent were also discussing at this moment. No one knew about the appearance of the Sky Bell, because no one dared to set foot on the Sky Cloud Island, and because the Sky Cloud Island was located in the center of the Sky Cloud Sea. The sea beasts in all directions were extremely powerful. No one had the strength to get close to the Sky Cloud Island through these sea beasts. However, when the Sky Bell appeared, all the creatures in the Sky Cloud realm heard it clearly. First, no one paid attention to it and only thought that it was a loud sound caused by someone fighting. But slowly they realized that their friends and relatives, no matter how far away they were, could hear this loud sound. They immediately realized that this matter wasn't simple. Because of this, the 4 continents gradually boiled over. Relatively speaking, ordinary people were at most curious. But the Demon Palace, Rogue Cultivator Alliance, Heavenly Palace, and Deity Palace, these super forces fell into a tense and uneasy atmosphere. Because they had time and space transmission divine tools and people who mastered the laws of time and space. Their forces were spread across the continents, so naturally the news came faster. Moreover, because of their relationship with Qin Feiyang and the others, they also had some understanding of the situation of the various forbidden areas, so they couldn't help but start to guess whether this was related to the 4 forbidden areas. Did something big happen again? Just as everyone was investigating the truth, another shocking news spread across the 4 continents. The Land of Buried Gods, the Death Glacier, the Een Devil Land, and the Heavy Region, these 4 forbidden areas, one after another, a group of powerhouses emerged one after another. These people all had monstrous strength and ignored the rules of the forbidden areas. As soon as they appeared, they forcibly expelled the adventurers in the 4 forbidden areas and gave the order to seal the forbidden areas. Seal the forbidden areas? This was the first time they had encountered such a thing. What exactly happened? After hearing this news, the giants of the 4 major forces pondered for a moment and immediately thought of Qin Feiyang and the others. This matter was definitely related to Qin Feiyang and the others. Even if it wasn't related, they must know the truth. Therefore, one by one they prepared to send a message to Qin Feiyang. But at this moment, they were the first to receive Qin Feiyang's message. Sea Lion Island. Space-time tunnels appeared one after another. Demon Hall. Elder Hua Chu Yun, Demon Hall's Hall Master. Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Alliance Master, Vice Alliance Master, Hall of Famers. Temple of Gods, Heizhongtian. Heavenly Palace, 3 giants. One by one, the supergiants who controlled a region arrived one after another. You're all here. The Heavenly Palace's Hall Master looked at Elder Hua and the others and smiled. Why is the Heavenly Palace here too? The Vice Alliance Master glanced at the 3 giants of the Heavenly Palace and frowned slightly. It's obvious that the Heavenly Palace has also joined Qin Feiyang. The woman chuckled and looked at the Vice Alliance Master and the Hall of Famers. She said enviously, Old Man Yi, Old Man Chi, don't deny it. You've really picked up a great bargain. What bargain? The 2 of them were suspicious. Still playing dumb? The woman looked at them in disdain and said indifferently, Of course it's your 2 disciples. Oh, so that's what you're talking about. The Vice Alliance Master came to a realization and said proudly, There's nothing we can do about it. We can only blame ourselves for having such good taste. The woman rolled her eyes and asked, You should know about the situation in the various forbidden regions and the loud noise that appeared not long ago, right? Yes. Everyone nodded. Then what's going on? The woman was suspicious. I don't know. Everyone shook their heads. Buzz. Another space-time tunnel appeared in the sky. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf walked out. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Hua and the others below and smiled apologetically. Sorry for making everyone wait. It's fine. Elder Hua waved his hand. Qin Feiyang smiled and landed in front of the Vice Alliance Master. He bowed and said, Disciple greets Master. Good, good, good. The Vice Alliance Master smiled happily. With such an outstanding disciple, how could he not be happy? Qin Feiyang glanced at the various giants and said with a smile, I know that you will definitely send me a message one by one, so in order not to waste time, I called all of you here and told you all at once. At the same time, I also want you all to be mentally prepared. Mentally prepared? Everyone looked at each other. Why did these words make people unconsciously start to feel nervous after hearing them? Say it. Elder Hua said. Soon, there will be a time called the Divine Kingdom that will come to our sky cloud realm. Qin Feiyang explained the situation of the Divine Kingdom and the battle between the sky cloud realm and the Divine Kingdom in detail. Moreover, these people in front of him could be trusted, so he didn't hide the situation of the human emperor, the feather emperor, and the land of buried gods. He only didn't reveal the fact that Qin Badian was the human emperor's son. What? There's actually such a thing? When the group of giants heard this, they were shocked. It was simply beyond their imagination. If it wasn't from Qin Feiyang's mouth, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Chapter 3667. Although these things are inconceivable, there's no mistake about it. After all, Dragon King and the other big shots personally said this. Hence you guys have to be fully prepared. Qin Feiyang reminded. All right. Everyone nodded. Actually, even without Qin Feiyang's reminder, they knew that they couldn't let down their guard. Of course, don't leak this out for the time being to avoid causing panic. Don't let us panic before the Divine Kingdom descends. Qin Feiyang smiled. Elder Hua and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. Feiyang, now that Feather Emperor is here, we don't have to worry about the dragons taking revenge, right? To be honest, acting in front of the dragons all these years is really tiring. The vice leader shook his head. Actually, tiring is only secondary. The most important thing is feeling sullen. The Hall of Famers sighed. You still feel sullen? Seems like your temperament isn't that great. Madman bared his teeth. No matter how good my temperament is, I'm still human. As long as you're human, you'll definitely have emotions and desires. The Hall of Famers was fuming. So that's the case. Madman suddenly smiled and teased. I thought that you're a person who doesn't care about worldly desires. Stinking brat, you even dare to tease your master? Are you looking for a beating? The Hall of Famers had a dark expression. He simply had no respect for his elders, but there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. Because Madman had such a personality. In front of the people closest to him, he didn't feel restrained at all. One could understand it this way. The more impudent he was in front of you, the more he cared about you. Hey, can you two stop flirting in front of us? Have you considered our feelings? Elder Hua looked at Madman and the Hall of Famers in dissatisfaction. He was clearly the first one to come into contact with Qin Feiyang and Madman. Moreover, he had even saved Qin Feiyang and Madman's lives. But in the end, the vice leader and the Hall of Famers were the ones who benefited. Every time he thought about it, he couldn't help but feel angry. Why didn't he have the thought of accepting a disciple? If he had thought of this back then, even if he had to be thick-skinned, even if he had to use coercion, he would have made these two brats his personal disciples. If that was the case, how could the Vice Alliance leader and Vice Alliance leader be so smug? Although Qin Feiyang and Madman were also disciples of the Devil Hall, the difference between a Devil Hall disciple and a personal disciple was completely different. Sigh. At that time he was really stupid. He actually missed out on two such good seedlings. This old man is happy too. You can continue to be envious. The Hall of Famers looked at Elder Fire triumphantly. He clearly knew that Elder Hua was feeling indignant, yet he still deliberately provoked him. What a cute old man. Elder Hua rolled his eyes. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, The Skybell Divine Treasury has so many treasures. Shouldn't we go with you and try our luck? Hearing Elder Hua's words, everyone's hearts couldn't help but tremble. The Heaven Bell Divine Treasure contained the Sovereign's divine weapon, the Law Miniature, and the inheritance of the Ultimate Profound. Any one of them would be a great fortune for them. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and nodded. At first, I did have this thought. Hearing this, the group of people immediately became excited. However, Qin Feiyang said again, There's still a but? The group of people was stunned. Qin Feiyang scanned the group of people and shook his head. I think that you guys shouldn't take the risk. After all, even Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor said that the dragons, phone people, and Qilin race might attack me in the Skybell Divine Treasury. Isn't that better? We can also help you guys. The alliance leader spoke. Chuyun also said, don't tell me you think that we will drag you guys down? Ahem. White-eyed wolf coughed dryly and looked at Chuyun. You know your limits. Get lost. Chuyun's face darkened. That's the truth. Look at our current strength. Brother, the 6 supreme laws and the miniature of the law of death have already opened the ultimate door. Little Qinzi, the law of karma, the law of destruction, and the law of thunder, the 3 supreme laws, and has also opened the ultimate door. As for little madman, let's not talk about him. White-eyed wolf shook his head. Madman's face darkened as he glared at white-eyed wolf and roared, why don't you talk about it when it's my turn? Is it difficult for you to talk about it? It's indeed difficult to talk about it without opening the ultimate door. White-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Madman flew into a rage, but he suddenly calmed down and sneered. Alright, then let's see who will master the ultimate law first in the future. White-eyed wolf looked at Madman in surprise. He was actually so confident. Something was wrong. Could it be that Madman ran back to Sky Cloud Island some time ago and obtained some heaven-defying fortune? Wait a moment. Suddenly, Elder Hua's voice sounded. Madman and White-eyed Wolf looked at Elder Hua suspiciously. Elder Hua looked at Qin Feiyong and White-eyed Wolf and frowned. The two of you have already obtained the epitome of the law? After speaking, Elder Hua looked at Qin Feiyong alone and said, and you have even comprehended the law of Thunder's supreme law. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. The group of big shots looked at each other. What kind of monsters were these two? Let's not talk about the ingrate first. After all, the 6 supreme laws were all plundered. However, Qin Feiyong's 3 utmost profound meanings were all comprehended by himself. Thus, he had already far surpassed them. This was because after opening the door of potential, they had only comprehended the 2nd supreme law. Right now, they were no match for Qin Feiyong and White-eyed Wolf. I have to thank the Kirin clan for this. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and briefly told him about the lightning punishment stairway. I see. Elder Hua nodded. The woman in the palace gown asked suspiciously, then what happened at the entrance of the Death Glacier with the aura of a dozen divine weapons? This? Qin Feiyong smiled and told him about how Qi Xiong and the others ambushed them. Amazing. As expected of my disciple. The vice leader laughed. What does it have to do with you? As if you're very powerful. Everyone looked at him with disdain. Ha! The vice alliance master smiled awkwardly. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, actually, I have to thank He Zhongtian for this. Thank me? He Zhongtian was stunned. Qin Feiyong said, of course, if you hadn't brought the blood dragon blade here, we wouldn't have had the chance to subdue it. Without the blood dragon blade, how could we have caught them off guard? Hearing this, He Zhongtian felt awkward. This was because he had brought the blood dragon blade with him to get rid of Qin Feiyong and the others. But now, Qin Feiyong was giving him the credit. How could he not feel awkward? No matter what, we've survived this crisis. As for now, I personally think that we shouldn't expose our true relationship. When the Divine Kingdom descends and the various forces join forces, we can naturally help each other openly. In short, your existence is very meaningful to me. If the 3 forbidden zones want to harm us, you can also catch them off guard like the blood dragon blade. Qin Feiyong smiled. Alright. Elder Hua nodded and smiled. As long as we can be of use, you can use us as much as you want. Qin Feiyong was stunned. He smiled bitterly and said, isn't this using us well? You're helping us. We should be thanking you for your efforts. Elder Hua and the others looked at each other and smiled even wider. He was indeed a junior with a conscience. As for the Skybell Divine Treasury, you can indeed help me, but there's also danger. Because according to Little Rabbit and the others, only those who have grasped the ultimate profundity of the strongest laws can't enter. In other words, those who have grasped the ultimate profundity of the ordinary laws can enter. And the Skybell Divine Treasury hides so many treasures. The 3 major races definitely won't let go of this good opportunity. So they'll definitely send such experts. Ultimate profundity. Even if it's only an ordinary law, do you have the confidence to defeat them? So I really don't want you to risk your lives. Qin Feiyong smiled. Don't worry, we won't forget you when we get benefits. When we come out, we'll give each of you a miniature of the 6 laws. In the future, you'll definitely become existences like the Dragon King and Feng Ho. Madman chuckled. The group was stunned. Existences like the Dragon King and Feng Ho? It sounded really attractive, but they really didn't think of it that way. Because in their opinion it was like the stars in the sky. They could see it, but they couldn't touch it. However, Madman's words gave them hope. With the help of these 3 little fellows, perhaps one day in the future, they might really be able to reach this step. Elder Hua said, "How about this? We'll give you our Demon Palace's sovereign divine weapon. When the time comes, you'll have an extra chance to protect yourself when facing the people from the 3 forbidden zones." The woman looked at Elder Hua in surprise. He was even willing to give the sovereign divine weapon to Qin Feiyang. He was really sincere. After thinking for a while, the woman sat down and made a decision. She looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf and said, "My Sky Palace's sovereign divine weapon will also be given to you, Palace Master." The Vice Palace Master and Law Enforcement Palace Master couldn't help but look at the woman in palace clothes suspiciously. "Haven't you realized it yet? Now, only by treating Qin Feiyang and the others as true friends will our Sky Palace be able to go further. Look at the Demon Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. How much do you trust Qin Feiyang and the others? Look at the temple. Cloud Heaven even moved their entire clan to the Black Tortoise world. Only our Sky Palace has the worst relationship with Qin Feiyang and the others, so we have to work hard to make up for it." The woman in palace clothes transmitted her voice. Hearing this, the 2 glanced at Elder Hua and the others and fell silent. Indeed, whether it was the Demon Palace, the Temple, or the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, they all trusted Qin Feiyang and the others like they trusted their own children. If it were someone else, they would definitely think that Elder Hua and the others were a little silly. After all, in this world, people were basically selfish. They wouldn't think that if you did something for them, they would repay you. Let's not talk about retribution. Repaying kindness with enmity was not uncommon. But Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the golden-winged wolf king were different. Especially Qin Feiyang. He was a person who valued friendship and loyalty, and knew how to repay kindness. It was definitely worth it to invest in him. Therefore, their Sky Palace should indeed change. Chapter 3668. Thank you for your kind intentions. However, if you give us your sovereign divine weapon, won't it be the same as admitting to the dragons that you're just putting on an act? Qin Feiyang smiled. That's simple. Create a false impression. Let the world know that you're the ones who stole the sovereign divine weapon from us. This way, the dragons might even come to comfort us when they hear the news. The woman in the palace gown chuckled. Good idea. Elder Hua's eyes lit up as he nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, however, what if you encounter danger? How are you going to protect yourselves? The Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Temple of Gods don't have sovereign divine weapons now, but aren't they still doing well? It's not a big deal. As long as the act is real, no one will suspect anything. We'll talk about it later. In the eyes of the dragons, we betrayed you back then. It's natural for you to take revenge on us and steal the sovereign divine weapon. Elder Hua laughed hoarsely. If that's the case, Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded. All right. Because of the land of buried gods and the alliance, the Feng people were already very prejudiced against him. They might even ask him to return the Fire Phoenix Divine Jade and Fire Phoenix Sword before entering the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. If that was really the case, their overall strength would instantly plummet. Therefore, when the Heavenly Hall and Demon Hall's sovereign divine weapons joined, it would make up for this gap. Next, the group discussed for a while and prepared to take action. It was actually very simple. Qin Feiyang, Elder Hua, and the white-eyed wolf would pretend to take revenge on the Demon Hall. They would cause a little trouble and forcefully subdue the sovereign divine weapon. As for the Heavenly Hall, it was easier to deal with. Openly snatching. There was no reason for them to snatch the sovereign divine weapon. 3 days later, a piece of shocking news spread from the eastern continent. That's terrifying. Just this morning, Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and the Golden-Winged Wolf King brought 5 sovereign divine weapons to the Demon Hall to take revenge for their betrayal. The Demon Hall Master, Elder Hua, Chu Yun, and the 10 elders were all severely injured. Even the sovereign divine weapon was taken away by them. Really? How can I joke with you about this? One of my brothers is a core disciple of the Demon Hall. He saw it with his own eyes. Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, Golden-Winged Wolf King, they're too strong. Especially the Golden-Winged Wolf King. He actually grasped the supreme profundities of the 6 supreme laws. Just his strength alone is enough to crush the Demon Hall. Now, no one in the Eastern continent can compete with them. Since it's revenge, why don't you eliminate the Demon Hall directly like how you dealt with the Blood Hall? You don't understand. Back then, the reason why the Blood Hall was eliminated was because the Blood Hall had completely angered them. As for the current Demon Palace, it was only because they had used them back then. We'll talk about it later. Qin Feiyang and the others aren't the kind of demons who would easily stain thousands of miles with blood. Severely injuring a group of giants and snatching the sovereign divine weapons is a way to vent their anger. Moreover, the reason why the Demon Hall can dominate the Eastern continent is because they have the sovereign divine weapons. Now that Qin Feiyang has snatched their sovereign divine weapons, think about it. How big of a blow is this to the Demon Hall? I'm afraid it's worse than death. That makes sense. There's a good saying. Instead of killing the enemy directly, it's better to let them linger on with their last breath. Not long after, news of what happened in the northern continent also spread. The giants of the Heavenly Hall were all severely injured. The sovereign divine weapons were also forcefully taken away by Qin Feiyang, Elder Hua, and the White-Eyed Wolf. These 2 pieces of news quickly spread across the 4 continents, causing an uproar. However, the Demon Hall and the Heavenly Hall, who were directly involved, were smiling proudly when they saw the effect. This way the dragons wouldn't be able to attack them. Black Tortoise World. Qin Feiyang, Elder Hua, and the White-Eyed Wolf returned to the ancient castle and focused on comprehending the supreme profundity. Just as Little Rabbit said, there was no need to think about the supreme profundity for now. In the outside world, less than 2 months had passed. Boom! A terrifying murderous aura erupted from the castle. The sky above the Devil's Land instantly turned into a sea of blood. Countless lightning bolts surged in the sea of blood, emitting a destructive aura. Qin Feiyang and the White-Eyed Wolf were awakened. When they walked out of the ancient castle, their pupils shrank. This was the supreme profundity of the law of slaughter hell. The madman actually comprehended the supreme profundity of the law of slaughter so quickly? It was really a little unexpected. Hee. Along with a laugh, the madman walked out. He looked at the White-Eyed Wolf and said proudly, "How is it? I said I won't lose to you guys." The White-Eyed Wolf frowned. He sized up the madman and asked, "What kind of fortune did you obtain on Sky Cloud Island? Could it be the miniature version of the law of slaughter?" Because this was the only explanation that made sense. After all, it was a supreme profundity. How could it be so easy to comprehend? "I'm not telling you." The madman proudly turned around and returned to the ancient castle's cultivation room without looking back. The sea of blood in the sky also disappeared. The White-Eyed Wolf's mouth twitched. Qin Feiyang's eyes also had a trace of suspicion. He quickly chased after the madman. He and the madman both grasped the law of slaughter and the law of thunder. With one comprehending the supreme profundity of the law of slaughter, and the other comprehending the supreme profundity of the law of thunder, it was better for them to discuss it with each other. After all, on the cultivation path, especially the profundity of the laws, there was not much meaning in cultivating behind closed doors. In the blink of an eye. Outside, another 4 months passed. Exactly half a year. Half a year outside was more than 700,000 years in the Black Tortoise world. However, even though so much time had passed, Qin Feiyang's comprehension of the supreme profundity of the law of slaughter had only improved a little. It was like an insurmountable mountain. Every step was extremely difficult to climb. One had to know. This was the result of his discussion with the madman. If there was no discussion, there would be no progress at all. This undoubtedly made him yearn for the law of miniature even more. Because the supreme profundity of the law of thunder was comprehended so quickly because of the law of miniature. 2 people and 1 wolf came out one after another. Qin Feiyang looked at the White-Eyed Wolf and asked, "How is it?" "My head hurts." The White-Eyed Wolf shook his head. He naturally did not need to comprehend the supreme profundity anymore. because the 6 strongest laws already had their own supreme profundity. However, even if he had the law of death, every step was difficult. Senior brother, what about you? Qin Feiyong looked at the madman and asked with a smile. The madman sighed. There is progress, but this bit of progress is almost negligible. Same for me. Qin Feiyong nodded. The white-eyed wolf looked at the madman and chuckled. Then does this prove that you did indeed obtain the law of slaughter on Sky Cloud Island? So what? You have nothing to be proud of. Plus the previous half a year, a full year has passed, and the Black Tortoise world has been more than 1,000,000 years, but I haven't seen much progress in your law of death's ultimate profundity. The madman stared at him angrily. Admit it. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. I didn't intend to continue hiding it from you. The madman curled his lips. Then did you comprehend it yourself? Or did the little rabbit give it to you directly? The white-eyed wolf was curious. I comprehended it myself. It's similar to your situation on the Thunder Punishment Heavenly Stairs. The madman nodded. Qin Feiyong and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other, and a trace of desire appeared in their eyes. We are already preparing to go to the Skybell Divine Treasury. Is there still a need to think about the cultivation holy land of Sky Cloud Island? Hurry up. Prepare enough pills and get ready to set off. The madman said. At the same time, in the sky above Sky Cloud Island, the first group of people arrived. As a space-time tunnel appeared, a group of people filed out. The leader was Dragon King. Behind him, there were 21 people. Among them, the patriarchs of the 10 major clans of the dragons came one after another. There was also a very special young man, who was as eye-catching as a star. He was Long Chan. Apart from the 10 patriarchs and Long Chan, the other 10 people were unfamiliar faces. There were men and women, old and young, and each of them exuded an extremely powerful aura. It seems that we are the first to arrive. Long Chan glanced at the empty Sky Cloud Island and smiled slightly. Then, he looked up at the sky bell floating in the sky with a curious light in his eyes. Apart from the Dragon King, the 10 patriarchs and the 10 unidentified people were also looking at the sky bell. Are you sure you want to enter the Divine Treasury? The Dragon King suddenly turned to look at Long Chan and asked. Because in his opinion, as the son of the Ice Dragon, Long Chan didn't need to take the risk at all. Yes. Long Chan nodded and smiled faintly. I don't like to rely on my father for everything. Moreover, I have never relied on him before. I have earned my current strength through my own hard work. Then be careful. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to your parents. The Dragon King didn't say anything else. Long Chan had been in the dragon nest for so many years. He naturally knew Long Chan's character. Although he had a powerful father, Long Chan didn't rely on him. Instead, he didn't like his father. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Long Chan was a little foolish and conceited. However, those who knew Long Chan well understood why Long Chan was like this. It wasn't conceit. It was confidence. Whoosh! Before long, the Qilin clan and the Feng people arrived one after another. There were many familiar faces among the Qilin clan. Qi Xiong, Qi Yefeng, the patriarchs of the 9 clans, the white-bearded old man, and Qi Xiaoyun. Moreover, the Fire Qilin, Tanwu, and the Hell Divine Hound were also there. There were 15 of them. There were also 10 unfamiliar faces. Like the 10 members of the dragons, they had never appeared in public before. The aura they emitted was as vast as the ocean, unfathomable. In other words, there were 25 members of the Qilin clan. There were also 25 members of the Feng people. However, only 3 of them were familiar faces. They were Bing Runing, Princess Huafeng, and Daifuke. The other 22 were all new faces. The 3 forbidden zones each occupied an area. Although they were familiar with each other, they didn't say a single word. The place was deathly silent. I didn't expect all of you to be so impatient. Whoosh! Accompanied by a cold voice, more than a dozen people arrived above Sky Cloud Island. The leader was the Feather Emperor. Apart from the younger generation, when the 3 forbidden zones saw the Feather Emperor, a trace of fear appeared on the faces of the others. As for Princess Huafeng, Tanwu, and the others, they were all curious. As for the Dragon King, Feng Ho, and the Qilin clan's master, they didn't pay any attention to the Feather Emperor. Chapter 3669. Behind Feather Emperor. There were a total of 22 people. Among them there were familiar faces including Yun Xiang, the masked Azura, and the black-clothed middle-aged man. The other 14 people had never appeared before. Looking at the people from the three forbidden lands, the black-clothed middle-aged man and the others seemed to have hatred in their eyes. Feather Emperor glanced at the unfamiliar faces of the three forbidden lands and nodded with a smile. Not bad, no matter how much time has passed. I can still see some old friends. To this, the unfamiliar faces of the three forbidden lands revealed a forced smile. This is the Sky Bell Divine Treasury? Yun Xiang and the masked Azura looked at the Sky Bell in the sky with surprise. Not bad. However, don't think that the Sky Bell Divine Treasury only has fortune, it also has great danger. A green-clothed old man said. Danger and fortune have always coexisted. It just depends on whether one has the luck. Yes, we can't let down Master's expectations of us. Yun Xiang and the masked Azura muttered as they clenched their hands tightly. Looking at the Sky Bell, there was a determined light in their eyes. Looking at this scene, the green-clothed old man nodded with admiration. They were indeed two promising talents. Swish! About an hour later, accompanied by the sound of air breaking, 20 figures landed in the sky above Sky Cloud Island like lightning. Among them there was only one familiar face, the Sea Lion Emperor. As for the other 19, he had never seen him before. Everyone, long time no see. How have you been? The Sea Lion Emperor looked at the various people and cupped his hands with a smile. You guys are going too? Dragon King frowned. Of course. How can we miss such a good thing? The Sea Lion Emperor smiled faintly. Dragon King's eyes flashed and fell silent. Northern continent. In a certain mountain, Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, and Madman appeared out of thin air. After snatching the sovereign weapon from Sky Hall, they didn't return to Sky Cloud Sea. Instead, they found a place in the northern continent and entered Black Tortoise World to cultivate in seclusion. Madman glanced at the white-eyed wolf and asked Qin Feiyang, Old Qin, do you think Princess Huafeng will go to the Divine Treasury? When the white-eyed wolf heard this, his ears immediately perked up. Qin Feiyang knew what Madman was going to do with just one glance. After pondering seriously for a while, he nodded and said, according to her strong personality, she should go. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the Madman both noticed that a hint of joy flashed through the white-eyed wolf's eyes. The two of them snickered secretly. Qin Feiyang added, but it's not up to her to decide. After all, the Fire Feng People's chief has the final say. That's true. The Heavenly Bell Divine Treasure is so dangerous. Based on how much Chief Huafeng People dotes on his daughter, there's an 80 to 90% chance that he won't let her join in the fun. Madman nodded. What a pity. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What's a pity? It's best if such a troublesome woman doesn't go. The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. Truth? Qin Feiyang and the Madman looked at it mockingly. Of course. The white-eyed wolf nodded without any consideration. Qin Feiyang and the Madman looked at each other. This wolf cub was really stubborn. It was obviously looking forward to it, but it pretended that it didn't care. The Madman moved closer to the white-eyed wolf and chuckled. Brother Wolf, actually, whether it's Princess Huafeng or Pyrotechnic Glow, they didn't like you before because your image wasn't good enough. My image isn't good enough? Are you blind? Have you seen a wolf that's more impressive than me? The white-eyed wolf said angrily. No matter how impressive you are, you're still a wolf. It was a very cruel sentence. Really. You have to change your image. Look at the Feng people, the dragons, the princes and princesses of the Kirin clan. Which one of them didn't transform into a human form? This is because of an image problem. If they were all like you and kept their original form, who would like them? The Madman chuckled. That's true. Take Princess Huafeng for example. Although her original form is a phoenix, when she transforms into a human form, you will look out of place when standing next to her. Those who don't know will think that you are her mount or her pet. No one will think that you two are a good match. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, Don't misunderstand. I know you don't like Princess Huafeng. I'm just making an analogy. I don't care. The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. Don't be so arrogant, okay? Do you know why these divine beasts have to transform into a human form? That's because only in human form can they perfectly display their own charm. Let's take Princess Huafeng for example. If she transforms back into her original form, the phoenix will look the same. Who would know how beautiful she is? This time it was the madman who spoke. After speaking, he also made a special statement like Qin Feiyang. Don't misunderstand. I know you don't like her. It's just an analogy. Do you think I'm stupid? Analogy. Is she the only woman in the world? The white-eyed wolf glared at the two of them. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, don't mind these details. What we mean is that you might as well transform into a human form. This way you can show your personal charm. The white-eyed wolf looked at the two of them. His firm heart began to waver as he asked, are you sure this is more charming? Of course. Can we ignore you? The two of them nodded with a serious look. The white-eyed wolf scratched his ears and cheeks. Because all along, he had been somewhat resistant to transforming into a human form. In the end, he finally nodded and said, okay, but don't misunderstand. I'm not doing this because of someone. Of course, you're doing this purely to enhance your own charm. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Qin Feiyang and the madman nodded. For the sake of the white-eyed wolf's lifelong happiness, they could be said to be worried to death. The white-eyed wolf shook his body and transformed into a young man who immediately appeared in front of Qin Feiyang and the madman. He was about 1.8 meters tall, neither fat nor thin. His facial features were as sharp as a knife. He wore a slim golden robe and his long hair was like gold leaf. Moreover, there was an eye-like mark between his eyebrows. It made him look like a descendant of God. His temperament was unparalleled. How is it? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and the madman and asked. Not bad, not bad. He's really handsome and handsome. Even I am ashamed of my inferiority. The madman nodded and praised. Do you still need to say it? What kind of person is Brother Wolf? Even his original body is so majestic and handsome, let alone transforming into a human form. He is definitely a handsome man that hasn't been seen in 10,000 years. If I were a woman, I would definitely marry him. Qin Feiyang also flattered him. Haha, no need to be envious, I'm talking about natural beauty. The white-eyed wolf laughed complacently. Shameless. Qin Feiyang and the madman secretly despised him, but they both repeatedly agreed. Let's go. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand and a space-time transmission channel appeared. At the same time, the mark between his eyebrows disappeared. Then he walked in complacently. Look at him, I said he's fat and he's really arrogant. The madman's face was unhappy. As long as he's happy. I really hope that Princess Huafeng is also here. Qin Feiyang snickered secretly. The madman touched his chin and looked at the back of the white-eyed wolf. Don't say, after he transformed into a human, he and Princess Huafeng are quite compatible. Isn't this the effect we want? Qin Feiyang smirked. Then what's with the mark between his eyebrows? The madman was suspicious. It should be because he doesn't want others to recognize him. After all, his mark is now well known in the sky cloud domain. Qin Feiyang whispered. Is that so? The madman suddenly understood and walked into the space-time transmission channel. In the sky above Sky Cloud Island. Strange, why didn't they come? Princess Huafeng looked at the Skybell Divine Treasury for a while, and then glanced at the crowd and muttered, Princess, who are you talking about? Daifuku asked with a chuckle. Princess Huafeng was stunned and said angrily, Aren't you asking the obvious? I really don't know who you are talking about. Daifuku shook his head. Forget it if you don't know. Princess Huafeng coldly snorted. Daifuku couldn't help but find it funny and transmitted his voice, Princess, although you may think I'm a busybody, there are some words that I have to say. Our phone people and Qin Feiyang. But before he finished, Princess Huafeng raised her eyebrows and said secretly, You don't have to remind me. I know, but what will happen in the future? Do you know? Daifuku was stunned. He really didn't know what the future would be like. Swish. At this moment, on the mountain peak below, 3 young men walked out of the space-time channel. Each of them had an extraordinary temperament like the stars in the sky, attracting everyone's attention. Qin Feiyang. Madman Mo. Everyone present looked down at the 3 of them. Huh. But when they saw the white-eyed wolf, they couldn't help but be stunned. Who was this person? They had never seen him before. So many people. When Qin Feiyang and the other two saw the people in the sky, their expressions froze. It was a little beyond their imagination. There were actually so many unfamiliar faces. The most important thing was that these unfamiliar faces gave them a great sense of crisis. But they didn't know. When the people from all sides looked at them, they could also feel a terrifying pressure from them. Were these the legendary Qin Feiyang and Madman Imo? They were indeed extraordinary. Brother Qin, Brother Imo, Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the infernal divine hound landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the other two. For example, Princess Huafeng would more or less have concerns in front of so many people, but Fire Qilin and the others didn't have any concerns at all. You're going too? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Such a fun place, of course we have to go and have a look. The infernal divine hound grinned. Fun. Qin Feiyang was speechless. He glanced at the people on Fire Qilin's side and asked suspiciously, "Where's Uncle Divine Beast?" "He's in seclusion. I didn't tell him, otherwise he would definitely be here now." Tan Wu smiled. "It's good that you don't go." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. With one less person he would be less worried. As for Tan Wu and the infernal divine hound, he always remembered what Uncle Yuan said. Don't restrict them, let them develop freely, and their future achievements will not be low. He believed in Uncle Yuan's vision. Chapter 3670. Who is this? Fire Qilin looked at the white-eyed wolf curiously. Of course it's a handsome guy. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. Fire Qilin was stunned. He was indeed a little handsome, but there was no need to boast like that. Tan Wu and the hellhound also looked at the white-eyed wolf curiously. But suddenly, the hellhound sniffed and moved in front of the white-eyed wolf, constantly sniffing. "What are you doing?" The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "Why does it smell a little familiar?" The hellhound muttered. "Damn, you're really a dog." The white-eyed wolf scolded. The hellhound also scolded. "Damn, you're actually that bastard." "You're the bastard. Your whole family is a bastard." The white-eyed wolf glared at the hellhound angrily. This dog's nose was quite good. It actually saw through his identity at the first moment. "Who is it?" Tan Wu and Fire Qilin looked at the hellhound suspiciously. The hellhound said disdainfully, "Who else can it be? Is that Shu?" The madman quickly made a shushing gesture, and his gaze couldn't help but glance at the Princess Huafeng in the sky. "What?" The hellhound was suspicious. "Don't expose his identity yet." The madman pulled Qin Feiyang and went to the Fire Qilin, the hellhound and Tan Wu's side, whispering. What are they whispering about? The people from the various forces in the sky looked at the group of people in confusion. After a long time, Tan Wu, Fire Qilin, and the hellhound came to a realization, and then looked at the white-eyed wolf again, their eyes becoming extremely strange. "What are you guys blindly thinking about?" The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. "Nothing, nothing." Tan Wu waved his hand and said with a smile, "I wish you success." "Success?" The white-eyed wolf was stunned, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked, "What do you mean?" "How would I know?" Qin Feiyang chuckled. "I think you guys are definitely plotting something." The white-eyed wolf was infuriated. Madman said unhappily, "Can you not think of us as dragons? We're all gentlemen." These words were said very loudly. Everyone from the dragons heard it, and a trace of anger appeared in their eyes. "You can talk all you want, no one will care, but why do you have to drag the dragons into this? You are all gentlemen. Don't think of you as dragons. Are you saying that the dragons are despicable and shameless villains? Uncle can tolerate it, but Aunt can't." "All of you quiet down," Dragon King said. The group of people's eyes trembled, and they immediately suppressed the anger in their hearts. "What's up with you guys?" Madman raised his head and looked at the dragons group suspiciously. Why did they all look like they had eaten explosives? "You still have the face to ask us what's up with us?" The anger that the dragons group had suppressed with great difficulty rose again. Especially the patriarchs of the 10 clans. Their fierce eyes seemed to want to pull out their tendons and skin them alive. Madman retracted his gaze and looked at the white-eyed wolf. "Are they sick?" "And quite sick." The white-eyed wolf nodded. The two of them echoed each other, causing the Golden Dragon's patriarch and the others to almost go crazy. If not for the Dragon King being here, a fierce battle would definitely be unavoidable. Qin Feiyang glanced at the unfamiliar faces of the four forbidden regions and transmitted his voice. Fire Qilin? Tan Wu, who are they? Tan Wu thought. They are all old monsters of the various forbidden regions. Old monsters? Qin Feiyang and the other two were shocked and asked, are they all existences that have grasped the ultimate mysteries? Whether or not they have grasped the ultimate mysteries, we aren't very sure. Fire Qilin shook his head. Madman asked suspiciously, you don't know about those old monsters of the Qilin clan? After all, Tan Wu and the others came with the Qilin clan. Yes. Apart from Qi Xiong, the white-bearded old man, Qi Xiaoyun, and the patriarchs of the 9 clans, this is the first time we have seen the others. The Fire Qilin nodded. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. It seemed that this trip to the Skybell Divine Treasury would be very lively. Why isn't Qi Ji here? Bing Changtian and Fire Feng people are also not here. The white-eyed wolf suddenly noticed the situation of the Qilin clan and Fire Phoenix clan and asked suspiciously. Qi Ji gave this opportunity to Qi Xiaoyun. As for Bing Changtian and Fire Feng people, I guess it's the same. After all, Bing Runing and Princess Huafeng are both here. There's another news. Qi Xiaoyun has also successfully reached the top of the lightning punishment stairway. The Fire Qilin transmitted his voice. What? Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked. They raised their heads and looked at Qi Xiaoyun. This person was indeed not simple. Sensing Qin Feiyang and the others' gazes, Qi Xiaoyun also lowered his head and looked at them with a kind smile on his face. What kind of law did he obtain? Qin Feiyang asked inwardly. I'm not sure. After climbing the lightning punishment stairway, he has been cultivating in seclusion. The Fire Qilin shook his head. He's not simple. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf knew how terrifying the lightning punishment stairway was. Anyone who could reach the top was a person with great perseverance. Such a person could not be underestimated. Shua. Suddenly, the Feather Emperor landed in front of the three. Greetings, Lord Feather Emperor. The Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound immediately bowed, but when they looked at the Feather Emperor, there was a trace of confusion in their eyes. Yes. The Feather Emperor nodded. He looked at the three of them and smiled faintly. Not bad. Saving your lives back then was not in vain. You saved us before. Tan Wu, the Fire Qilin, and the Infernal Divine Hound were puzzled. You guys still don't know? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Know what? We learned of Lord Feather Emperor's identity from everyone. Tan Wu was puzzled. That's true. You guys have been in the Qilin sacred ground. But don't you guys feel that his aura is somewhat familiar? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Familiar? Tan Wu, the Fire Qilin, and the Infernal Divine Hound were puzzled. His aura was unfamiliar, but his appearance was somewhat similar to someone. The Feather Emperor smiled faintly. Back then in the Nether King's Hell, I deliberately concealed my aura. It's understandable that they couldn't recognize me. Nether King's Hell. Tan Wu, the Infernal Divine Hound, and the Fire Qilin's eyes trembled slightly. That's right. He's the one who saved you in the Nether King's Hell. Qin Feiyang nodded. The Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound looked at each other and quickly bowed. Thank you for saving our lives, Feather Emperor. The Feather Emperor waved his hand. Tan Wu smiled bitterly and said, Actually, when we saw Lord Feather Emperor appear earlier, we already thought of the person who saved us in the Netherworld King's Hell back then. It's because although your aura is different from back then, your image is no different. That's right. It's because your aura is different from back then that we can't be sure. After all, you're a big shot in the Sky Cloud realm. We really can't believe that the person who saved us back then was you. The Fire Qilin also spoke. Qin Feiyang smiled. The one who saved our ancestors back then was also the old ancestor. Tan Wu was stunned and sighed. It's really fate. Fate. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. This wasn't fate at all. The old ancestor had been waiting in the Nether King's Hell. All of you come down. The Feather Emperor looked at Yun Xiang and the others. Yun Xiang, the Master Jura, the black-clothed middle-aged man, and the 14 unfamiliar faces all landed on the mountain peak. The Feather Emperor glanced at the dragons, the Feng people, and the Qilin clan. He looked at the black-clothed middle-aged man and the others and ordered, "From now on, you will unconditionally obey Qin Feiyang's orders." "Yes." The black-clothed middle-aged man and the others nodded respectfully. When the Feng people, the dragons, and the Qilin clan heard this, their hearts suddenly trembled. This was obviously done on purpose for them to see. At all costs, they had to protect Qin Feiyang in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Qin Feiyang was also slightly stunned. Then, he looked at the Feather Emperor gratefully. Although this old ancestor was still very unfamiliar, his care for him could be said to be meticulous. The Feather Emperor looked at Yun Xiang and the Master Jura and said, "You also have to sincerely cooperate with Qin Feiyang and the others. Don't cause any disagreements in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. In short, you have to remember that your opponents are only the Feng people, the dragons, and the Qilin clan." "Yes." The two bowed and replied. Then, Yun Xiang looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Brother Qin, I hope to cooperate with you." Qin Feiyang smiled. He really didn't expect that there would be a day when he cooperated with Yun Xiang and the Master Jura. As the disciples of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon, the strength of Yun Xiang and the Master Jura should be very strong. Suddenly, Feng Ho's voice sounded in the sky, "Qin Feiyang, you snatched the sovereign divine weapons of the Sky Palace and the Demon Palace. You shouldn't need the Feng people's sovereign divine weapons, right?" Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. As expected, the Feng people opened their mouth to ask for the Fire Phoenix Divine Jade and the Fire Phoenix Sword. "Fire Phoenix Divine Jade, Fire Phoenix Sword." Feng Ho shouted. Clang! The two sovereign divine weapons immediately flew out of Qin Feiyang's body and flew in front of Feng Ho. Feng Ho waved her hand and the two sovereign divine weapons landed in front of Princess Huafeng. "Lord Feng Ho, what are you doing?" Princess Huafeng looked at Feng Ho in surprise. Feng Ho said, "You are the Princess Royal of the Fire Phoenix clan. No matter what, you must remember your responsibility." Hearing this, Princess Huafeng lowered her head and glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others. She bowed and said, "War will remember." Feng Ho nodded and looked up at the sky. She ordered, "There's still a while before the Divine Treasury opens. Let's get ready first." "Yes." The people of the Feng people responded respectfully. They sat cross-legged in the void and closed their eyes to meditate. The dragons and the Qilin clan followed suit. Qin Feiyang looked at the people of the three sides and turned to the Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound. "Do you want to come with us?" "No need. I know your concerns. No matter how you fight with the Qilin sacred ground, we won't interfere." The Fire Qilin smiled faintly. "That's right. Our goal is only the treasures in the Divine Treasury." The Infernal Divine Hound bared its teeth. Qin Feiyang laughed and solemnly promised, "No matter what your position is, you will always be my friend, Qin Feiyang." "Thank you for your trust." The Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound smiled at each other and rushed to the Qilin Master's side. Chapter 3671. The White-Eyed Wolf looked at the Fire Qilin, Tan Wu, and the Infernal Divine Hound and said, "Little Qinzi, to be honest, their current attitude makes me a little uncomfortable." "Why?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "Look, we have been friends for so many years, but now they don't directly express their stance? Why are they so vague? What do they want to do? When we really start a war with the Qilin clan, shouldn't they help us?" The White-Eyed Wolf said angrily, "Tan Wu, Uncle Divine Beast, let's not talk about the Infernal Divine Hound first. They can leave the Qilin clan at any time. But the Fire Qilin is the disciple of the Qilin clan after all. He also has his own concerns. As friends, we should think more for them and not make things difficult for them. As long as the Qilin clan doesn't provoke us, I will definitely not provoke them. Let's talk about it later. When we really have a falling out with the Qilin clan, do you think they will be indifferent? After being together for so many years, don't you understand them?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "I do understand them, but everything is unpredictable." The White-Eyed Wolf pursed his lips. "To be honest, I have never doubted their stance. I am now worried that the Qilin clan will be angry and use them as a bargaining chip to threaten us." Qin Feiyang sighed. The Qilin clan shouldn't be so despicable, right? Frenzy frowned. He had met the Qilin clan several times, and overall the Qilin clan gave him a good impression. I hope I am overthinking it. Qin Feiyong smiled. Time passed bit by bit. It was almost noon, but the Skybell Divine Treasury had not opened yet. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but look at the Feather Emperor suspiciously and asked, "When will the Divine Treasury open?" "Noon." The Feather Emperor looked up at the sun in the sky and muttered, "Soon? I am really looking forward to it," Qin Feiyong muttered under his breath. He took a step forward and landed beside the Sea Lion Emperor. His gaze swept over the 20 sea beasts and he bowed. "Junior Qin Feiyong greets seniors. You're finally willing to greet us?" Emperor Sea Lion looked at Qin Feiyong unhappily. Qin Feiyong smiled embarrassedly and said, "Senior, please forgive me. I just met the old ancestor and couldn't help but chat for a while." The Sea Lion Emperor said, "Is that so? I thought you had forgotten about us because of the Feather Emperor." "How could that be?" Qin Feiyong quickly waved his hand and looked at the remaining 19 people, asking, "Seniors, are you all beast emperors of the heavenly cloud sea?" "Yes." One of the red-haired old men laughed. "How could this junior guess?" Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. The Sea Lion Emperor laughed. "There are only 8 beast emperors in the heavenly cloud sea. As for the other 12, even we have to address them as Lord." Following the Sea Lion Emperor's words, 7 of them walked to his side. Clearly, these were the 8 beast emperors. The remaining 12 people did not move, including the red-haired old man. They looked at Qin Feiyong with a trace of appreciation on their faces. Qin Feiyong's eyes swept over the 12 people and his pupils shrank. These people's auras were very weak. On the surface they looked like ordinary people, but the higher one's cultivation, the more one could feel the pressure coming from these 12 people. He didn't expect the heavenly cloud sea to be hiding such old monsters. The red-haired old man laughed hoarsely. "Little friend's Black Tortoise Divine Brew and Unparalleled Divine Brew really made us forget to return Qin Feiyong was taken aback, looking at the Sea Lion Emperor suspiciously. The Sea Lion Emperor laughed. "Of course, the divine brew you gave me can't only benefit the 8 of us. I have to show filial respect to these old seniors. Not to mention they have been secretly watching you. Last time, it was their idea to lend little lunatic a sovereign divine weapon." "Watching us?" Qin Feiyong was stunned, quickly asking, "Then why didn't you say so earlier? If you had said so, I would have given you more. I thought there were only 8 of you in the heavenly cloud sea." One of the beast emperors laughed. "If there were only 8 of us, how could the dragons, Feng people, and Qilin Master be so afraid of us?" "True. This junior was stupid." Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. Looking at the other 12 people, he bowed. "Many thanks to the old seniors for taking care of us all these years. This junior will always remember this kindness in his heart. It's a small matter, not worth mentioning." The red-haired old man waved his hand and smiled. "What small matter? Since we helped them so much, we naturally have to thank them properly." This time, the little rabbit appeared as usual, holding a jar of divine brew, and said, "Little brother, it's useless to just talk, we have to see the actual action. How about this, each person will have 10,000 jars of divine brew." Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Uncle Rabbit, can't you be more reserved? People who don't know would think that we are as addicted to wine as you are." The red-haired old man and the other 12 people looked at the little rabbit helplessly. How shameless. Still pretending in front of Uncle Rabbit. The little rabbit despised. The 12 people smiled bitterly. Following the appearance of the little rabbit, the dragons, Feng people, and Qilin people all opened their eyes and looked at the little rabbit. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. The little rabbit looked around and sneered. "Not bad. In order to go to the Skybell Divine Treasure, all of you put in a lot of effort. However, in the Skybell Divine Treasure, you don't rely on numbers but luck. In addition, Uncle Rabbit will say one more thing. The Divine Kingdom is about to descend. Everyone here is the main force of our Sky Cloud realm. Don't do anything that will harm the interests of the Sky Cloud realm because of your own selfishness." The little rabbit added and landed in front of Qin Feiyong, and said with a smile, "Little brother, we are about to go to the Skybell Divine Treasure. Quickly leave some of the divine brew for Big Brother. It's best if you give all of it to me." Hearing this, Emperor Sea Lion and the others couldn't help but smile bitterly. Sure enough, every sentence was about the same. Give all of it to you? Why? Qin Feiyong looked at the little rabbit suspiciously. The little rabbit said, if you die inside, wouldn't it be a waste? It's best if you leave those master brewers to me. Uncle Rabbit will help you take care of them. Qin Feiyong was stunned, and his face immediately darkened. Who in the world would curse their own brother to death? Uncle Rabbit, there are so many people watching. Can you not be so embarrassing? Emperor Sea Lion coughed and reminded. So what if they are watching? What's the big deal? The little rabbit didn't care at all. Hearing this, the 8 divine beasts and the other 12 people looked helpless. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes, took out 2 interspatial rings, and handed one to the little rabbit, and said snappily, I've already prepared it for you. The little rabbit was slightly stunned, took the interspatial ring, checked it, and suddenly grinned, not bad, very sensible. The interspatial ring was filled with unparalleled divine brew and black tortoise divine brew. There were at least tens of thousands of jugs. After the little rabbit said that, it glanced at the other interspatial ring in Qin Feiyong's hand and asked, What about your interspatial ring? Of course it's for the 8 divine beast emperors. Qin Feiyong smiled. For them? No need, they will go to the Skybell divine treasure anyway. After the little rabbit said that, it directly snatched the interspatial ring from Qin Feiyong's hand, and there were tens of thousands of jugs in it. You. Qin Feiyong stared at the little rabbit angrily. The Sea Lion Emperor and the others were also angry. How could it be like this? The little rabbit reprimanded righteously. Since you want to go to the Skybell divine treasure, you have to go all out at all times. Why drink wine? Don't you know that drinking will make a mistake? The group of people's faces twitched. The Feather Emperor's scolding was reasonable. This was a shameless bastard. Dong! This time, noon came. The sky bell suspended at the top of the sky issued an earth-shaking sound. Everyone looked up at the sky bell. The bell rang 3 times in a row, once again shocking the entire sky cloud realm. Clang! After the bell rang 3 times, accompanied by a loud noise, one side of the sky bell slowly split open, revealing a dark passage. It was like a bottomless pit, revealing a mysterious aura. You only have 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, if you don't come out, you will be obliterated by the rules of the Skybell Divine Treasure. Remember Uncle Rabbit's words. Our current opponent is the Divine Kingdom. Go in. The little rabbit shouted. The people of the various forces immediately rushed towards the passage. The Feather Emperor looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and transmitted his voice. The 3 forbidden zones might not listen to the little rabbit. You must be careful. Everyone responded and immediately flew towards the passage. Also, the entrance of the Skybell Divine Treasure is random. Remember to look for your companions after entering. The Feather Emperor reminded again. Random teleportation? Qin Feiyong was shocked and quickly took out the sovereign divine weapons of the Demon Palace and the Sky Palace, handing them to the White-Eyed Wolf and the Madman. Fortunately, the Feather Emperor mentioned this in advance. Otherwise, if the White-Eyed Wolf and the Madman entered and encountered the people of the 3 forbidden zones, it would be really dangerous. Do the 2 of you have sovereign divine weapons? When they were about to enter the passage, Qin Feiyong noticed Yun Xiang and the Master Jura and secretly asked. No. The 2 shook their heads. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment, then took out the Horsetail Whisk and the Blood Dragon Blade and said, Follow them for now. Okay. The 2 sovereign divine weapons responded and entered Yun Xiang and the Madman's bodies. Qin Feiyong, Yun Xiang and the Madman's bodies were shocked. They never thought that Qin Feiyong would give each of them a sovereign divine weapon to protect themselves. You are the primogenitor's disciples, of course I can't be biased. Good luck. Qin Feiyong smiled. In fact, according to seniority, he should call Yun Xiang and the Madman's ancestors. Thank you. The 2 of them were touched. Qin Feiyong smiled and looked at the black-clothed middle-aged man and the Sea Lion Emperor. He asked, Are you all okay? Just take care of yourselves. The Sea Lion Emperor smiled faintly. Then I'll see you in the divine treasure. Qin Feiyong smiled, and the group immediately rushed into the passage one after another. Instantly, their eyes fell into darkness. Chapter 3672. After everyone entered the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure, the Feather Emperor landed beside Little Rabbit and asked, "How much do you think they will gain this time? Can they pass the first level?" "The first level? With their temperament, there should be no problem. As for the gains, we can't force them. It all depends on their luck. However, every supreme treasure they gain will be a source of confidence for us to confront the Divine Kingdom," Little Rabbit whispered. The Feather Emperor nodded and looked at the Dragon King trio. He smiled and said, "I haven't had the chance to have a good gathering with you guys since I came back. Why don't you stay on Sky Cloud Island and have a few drinks with me? The war is imminent. Do you think we still have the mood?" Dragon King snorted. "That's why we should take the opportunity to relax." The Feather Emperor smiled. "Not interested." Dragon King replied coldly and was about to leave. But at this moment, two figures appeared in the sky. It was an old man and a young man. Both of them were emitting killing intent like gods of death. As they appeared, the sky instantly turned into a sea of blood. This aura. Dragon King trio immediately looked up at the two, their eyes full of surprise. But the old man and the young man didn't stop and directly entered the passage of the Heaven Bell. "Is it him?" Dragon King looked at Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor and asked. "Who?" Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor were suspicious. "Don't ask when you already know the answer. One of you is hiding in hell, and the other is guarding the entrance to the lower realm. I don't believe you don't know him," Dragon King said angrily. "I really don't know." Little Rabbit shook her head. "Humph. Seems like you guys have been playing a big game of chess all these years." The Dragon King snorted, turned around, and disappeared into the horizon without looking back. Feng Ho and the Qilin Master also took a deep look at Little Rabbit and the Feather Emperor before leaving without saying a word. After Little Rabbit saw Dragon King trio disappear, she looked back at the Feather Emperor and said, "Have you been in contact with him long ago?" "No. But I always knew," the Feather Emperor said. "Interesting. Looks like it won't be long before those who should return will return one by one. And this time there's the monstrous Qin Feiyang. I'm afraid the arrival of the Divine Kingdom won't be a disaster for the Sky Cloud realm. But the end of the Divine Kingdom." A cold light flashed in the Little Rabbit's eyes. "Not necessarily. After all, it was true that many experts died back then. Only a few were able to return." Feather Emperor sighed. "Don't worry. Someone will replace the fallen ones." The Little Rabbit shook her head and smiled. "Ah." Feather Emperor looked at Little Rabbit in shock. "Because this time we have people who have activated the 10 strongest fighting souls. None of them are ordinary people. In addition to Uncle Rabbit's meticulous nurturing, sooner or later, they will be able to stand above the rules of the world." The Little Rabbit smiled domineeringly. "That's true." Feather Emperor smiled. "But at present they still need time to grow. Why don't you stay on Sky Cloud Island for the next 1,000 years and help Uncle Rabbit? Uncle Rabbit is really a little tired teaching them alone." Little Rabbit sighed. "This." Feather Emperor was a little hesitant. "What is this?" "These people are Qin Feiyang's friends and subordinates. Qin Feiyang is your descendant. You are duty-bound," Little Rabbit said angrily. "All right." Feather Emperor smiled helplessly and nodded. Sky Bell Divine Treasure. For experts like Little Rabbit and Feather Emperor, it was a mysterious place that they yearned for. Qin Feiyang and the others were naturally filled with anticipation. In the dark tunnel there was a dead silence. Qin Feiyang was like a lonely soul floating in the tunnel. The white-eyed wolf, Frenzy Yunxiang, and the others around him had all disappeared. At this moment, he felt as if he had climbed the thunder punishment heavenly stairs and entered his inner world. Loneliness, dead silence, confusion, nervousness. Not knowing how long had passed, the sky and earth spun. Suddenly, a dazzling light burst out in front of him, causing him to involuntarily close his eyes. Not long after he closed his eyes, he felt that he had landed on a solid ground. Immediately, he became vigilant. Because without thinking, he knew that he had arrived at the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. He slowly opened his eyes. The dazzling light had disappeared and was replaced by a gentle flame. As he opened his eyes, a huge object appeared in front of him. At this moment, he stood in front of an ancient square. The square was still surrounded by darkness, but at the edge of the square, there were more than a dozen large furnaces burning with raging flames. It was these large furnaces that emitted a gentle flame that illuminated the square. This place. It was still dead silent. Apart from Qin Feiyang, there was no one else. Qin Feiyang stood in front of the square and looked at the center of the square, not daring to step into the square. Because in the center of the square, there was a black stone door. The stone door was tightly shut and it was 100 feet tall. This was the huge object that Qin Feiyang saw. The door was engraved with complicated patterns, mountains, rivers, and all kinds of creatures, as if it was depicting a real world. Although the stone door looked simple and unadorned as a whole, without any dangerous aura, it should be known that in this place even a blade of grass or a tree could be fatal, not to mention such a strange stone door. After a long time, Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and finally stepped into the square. Because there was nothing around, only this square could be stepped into. At the moment when he entered the square, the stone door strangely disappeared in front of Qin Feiyang. What's going on? Qin Feiyang rubbed his eyes and looked again. It had really disappeared, and the whole square became even emptier. Brother Feiyang. Suddenly, there was a series of footsteps behind him, followed by a surprised voice. Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly turned around, only to see 3 men and 3 women standing in front of the square. Feiyang. Qindage. Young master. The other 5 people also spoke. That's right. These 6 people were Linny Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, Pei Tianhong, Wang Chongyuan and Yun Zhongtian. Qin Feiyang was a little confused. What's going on? Why are they also in the Tianzhong Divine Treasure? When I came in before, I didn't tell them. Especially Linny. This girl, isn't she in the ancient realm? Linny, wearing a white dress, walked into the square, looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously, and asked, Brother Feiyang, what's wrong with you? No. Why are you here too? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. After you entered the Divine Treasure, we discussed and planned to come in and take a look. Mermaid Princess was wearing a pale golden dress. Her long golden hair was wavy, and her figure was exquisite like a fairy. Isn't this nonsense? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Mermaid Princess shrank her neck, stepped forward, and hugged Qin Feiyang's arm. She said discontentedly, Then why are you allowed to come? I'm concerned about you. Qin Feiyang was speechless. Fire Lotus said, Qindage, we have been cultivating in the sky cloud realm for so many years. Our current strength is quite strong, so don't think that we will drag you down. That's not what I mean. Qin Feiyang was helpless. He looked at Pei Tianhong and the other 2 and said angrily, They are not sensible, and you are also fooling around? If I wanted you to come in, I would have called you in the sky cloud realm. Isn't it because we were worried that you wouldn't let us in, so we sneaked in from behind? But our luck is really good. The random teleportation can actually teleport us together. Pei Tianhong smiled embarrassedly. Yes, this is a random teleportation. How come we are all teleported here? Qin Feiyang muttered in his heart. This luck is too good. Linny looked at the center of the square and said suspiciously, Brother Feiyang, why did the stone door disappear as soon as we entered the square? Qin Feiyang's thoughts were interrupted immediately. He said in surprise, You also saw the stone door? The 6 nodded. So now it has disappeared in front of your eyes? Qin Feiyang asked again. Yes. The 6 nodded again. Strange. Apart from the stone door, there is only this square. Now even the stone door has disappeared, leaving only this square. What is going on? Qin Feiyang glanced around the square. Will the exit be somewhere in the dark area? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang turned to look at Linny and asked, When did you enter the Sky Cloud realm? It has been a long time. I was really bored in the ancient world and I missed you very much, so I talked to Master. He did not object. Linny smiled. After so many years, she was much livelier than before. How is the ancient world now? Qin Feiyang asked. It has already stabilized. Before leaving, I also went to Divine Land to visit Old Master Yizhong and the others. They are all good. And they asked me to tell you not to worry about them. Explore the Sky Cloud realm well. Linny smiled. What about the fire python guarding miracle? Qin Feiyang asked again. Of course it is good. After all, the third floor of Miracle is now under its control. However, it still has a knot in its heart. Lin Yi sighed. Is it the fire dragon? Qin Feiyang asked. Lin Yi nodded. The fire dragon has died in our hands. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Really? When it hears this news in the future, it will be very happy. Lin Yi said. The mermaid princess asked Feiyang, when do you plan to go back? Go back to Great Qin? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. The mermaid princess nodded. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and shook his head. I want to go back now. But Little Rabbit said that after entering the Sky Cloud realm, you can't go to the lower realm anymore. What? Can't go back? Lin Yi was surprised. Said so. The space-time channel leading to hell has this restriction. Qin Feiyang nodded. How did the people of the Blood Hall go to the lower realm? Lin Yi was suspicious. I don't know. Little Rabbit must know, but it didn't say. I suspect that it should be related to Ice Dragon at that time. After all, Blood Hall was ordered by Ice Dragon at that time. In fact, you don't have to worry about this matter. Little Rabbit must know the way to go back. When we drive away the Divine Kingdom, we will ask it again. Now let's see what the situation is here. Qin Feiyang glanced at the square and frowned. He thought that the Sky Bell Divine Treasure was a big world or a perilous purgatory, but he didn't expect it to be such a square, and it was surprisingly calm. Chapter 3673. The few of them wandered around the square. Then he knocked on the ground to see if there were any hidden passages or secret rooms. But searching the entire square, they didn't find anything suspicious. Let me try. Pei Tianhong also began to lose his patience and punched the ground with all his strength. With a loud bang, the square shook violently. But it soon calmed down. Qin Feiyang and others gathered around and looked at the ground. They were all stunned. One must know. Pei Tianhong had long been a perfect dominator. He had also comprehended the supreme meaning of the time law. In addition, he had been cultivating in seclusion on Sky Cloud Island all these years. His strength had improved a lot. But even so, there was no crack on the ground at this moment. So hard. Wang Chongyuan and Yun Zhongtian looked at each other and attacked at the same time. The Thunder Law and Destruction Law were activated. The power of thunder and destruction contained the power to destroy the world. Boom! The two jumped up, then swooped down and slammed their palms on the ground. Qin Feiyang, Pei Tianhong, Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, and Lin Yi quickly retreated to the edge of the square. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the law of karma surged out, forming a thick shield of light in front of him to block the incoming shockwaves. Boom! As Wang Chongyuan and Yun Zhongtian's palms fell, the square shook again. The two stared at the ground, their eyes full of expectation. But, in less than 3 breaths, the trembling square calmed down. Looking at the ground again, it was still intact. The two looked stunned. How could this be? Even if it had been tempered by divine power or the power of law, it was impossible to be this hard. After all, their laws of lightning and laws of destruction had already reached the level of supreme profundities. Grim Reaper's sword, you go and try. Qin Feiyang glanced at the square, his eyes shining. Clang! The sword of the Grim Reaper immediately swept out, its sharpness toppling mountains and overturning seas as it slashed towards the ground. Wang Chongyuan and Yun Zhongtian quickly pulled it aside. However, the Grim Reaper sword controlled its momentum quite well, and didn't affect Qin Feiyang and others. Gotcha! As the sword of the Grim Reaper fell, the square was split into 2 with a loud bang. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other and smiled. Sovereign-level divine weapons were indeed different. Next, the Death God's sword began to dig 3 feet into the ground. However, after searching the entire underground area of the plaza, he didn't find any secret rooms or secret passages. Qin Feiyang scanned the dark area outside the square again. Could it be that the exit was hidden in this dark zone? Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang immediately looked at the Mermaid Princess and the others and said, "You guys stay here and don't run around. I'll search the surrounding dark areas. Be careful." The Mermaid Princess reminded. Yes, Qin Feiyang nodded. He turned to the sword of the Grim Reaper and ordered, "Stay here and take care of them." After saying that, Qin Feiyang turned around and plunged into the darkness without looking back. Immediately, he was plunged into a deep darkness. What's going on? He immediately stopped and scanned the area in front of him. His eyes were dark and he couldn't see anything. Even his perception was restricted. It was as if he was in a cold and deathly silent cave. He couldn't help but feel a trace of fear in his heart. "Castle, help me," Qin Feiyang said. Before entering the Skybell Divine Treasure, he also brought the castle with him just in case. Clang! But with the appearance of the castle, there was still no light around. "Can you see it?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I can't see it, but I can tell the direction," the castle replied. Qin Feiyang's heart was filled with disbelief. Even the castle couldn't see the dark area clearly. What kind of place was this? The castle was a sovereign-level divine weapon. Even a sovereign-level divine weapon was restricted? This was the first time he had encountered such a thing. It seemed that from now on he couldn't be careless, because this meant that even a sovereign-level divine weapon might not be an invincible existence in the Skybell Divine Treasure. Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment, then said, "I can tell the direction, so I can check it out." He was afraid that he couldn't tell the direction. For example, his vision and perception were restricted now, so he couldn't even tell the direction. If he couldn't tell the direction, he would get lost in the dark area. At that time, he might be trapped in this dark area forever, unable to return to the square and meet up with everyone. Next, Qin Feiyang and the ancient castle wandered around in the dark zone like a lonely ghost. Right now, Qin Feiyang's heart really longed for someone to appear. Even the dragons, the Feng people, and the Kirin clan could do it. He even longed for a trace of light to appear in front of him, even if there was danger. However, these didn't appear. It was like a sealed space, as if he was alone. This kind of atmosphere couldn't help but make people feel lonely and desperate. 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, 2 months. Qin Feiyang didn't know how long he had been wandering for. Suddenly, a trace of light finally appeared in front of him. He was overjoyed and hurried towards the light. But when he rushed out of the dark area, he found that he had returned to the square. "Feiyang, Qin Dage, young master," Mermaid Princess and a group of people immediately greeted him. Qin Feiyang saw that everyone in the Sword of Thanatos were there, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. "Brother Qin, what's wrong?" Yun Zhongtian asked. "I didn't find anything." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "It has been 100 years and you didn't find anything?" Fire Lotus frowned. "What? 100 years?" Qin Feiyang looked stunned. Fire Lotus nodded and asked, "Yes, don't you know?" "What's the situation?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Although he felt that a long time had passed in the dark area, it was absolutely impossible for 100 years to pass so quickly. And he also found that the square destroyed by the Sword of Thanatos had now been restored to its original state. There was no trace of damage. "Brother Feiyang, what's wrong?" Lin Yi looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "What a strange place." Qin Feiyang didn't answer. Instead, he glanced around the dark area with a confused face. "It's really strange. I didn't return to the square at all. Instead, I kept flying towards the depths of the dark area. But unknowingly, I returned to the square. It feels like there's a maze here that's confusing us," Gu Bao said. "Maze?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Gu Bao asked, "Why don't you all stay here? And the Sword of Thanatos and I will go into the dark area separately to take a look?" "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. "They can't be trapped here forever. Whether it's a maze or not, there must be an exit." Swish! The 2 sovereign divine weapons disappeared into the dark area one after another. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Pei Tianhong, Wang Chongyuan, and Yun Zhongtian with a smile. "How's your harvest after being in seclusion on Sky Cloud Island for so many years?" "Not bad." The 3 nodded and smiled. Qin Feiyang said, "Don't say it's not bad. Tell me, how many profound mysteries did you comprehend? Can you keep us in suspense first?" The 3 looked at each other and asked Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was stunned, speechless. "Looks like you've all obtained the white-eyed wolf's true inheritance." "Hey!" The 3 bared their teeth. "Fine. Since we're idle, let's calm down and comprehend the profound mysteries." Qin Feiyang looked at everyone and said, Everyone nodded. Wait a minute. The mermaid princess suddenly thought of something and looked at Qin Feiyang. Feiyang, can you enter the black tortoise world first? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. He hasn't tried to enter the black tortoise world yet? Immediately, with a thought, he appeared in the sky above the Devil's Land. Can I? Looking at the familiar Devil's Land, Qin Feiyang was stunned for a while before coming back to his senses. This was a little beyond his expectations. Generally speaking, a place like this would definitely have some restrictions, but now, he could actually enter the black tortoise world. In the square, the mermaid princess and the others were also overjoyed. Because there was no need to ask, they knew that they could definitely enter. After Qin Feiyang came out of the black tortoise world, he let everyone into the Devil's Land. After learning that the seal of the black tortoise world had been unlocked and the time array had transformed, the group was pleasantly surprised. Time quietly passed. 1 year. 2 years, 100 years. 200 years on this day. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and looked up at the scene in front of him. Although he was comprehending the laws, he had been paying attention to the time. 200 years, not in the black tortoise world but in the outside world. Outside. It had already been 200 years, but why hadn't the castle and the death god's sword returned? Could something have happened? Feiyang, what's going on with you? Suddenly, the mermaid princess's voice came from the side. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the mermaid princess and asked suspiciously, "What's wrong?" The castle was outside, so they were all cultivating at home. The mermaid princess hurriedly got up, picked up a bronze mirror from the dressing table, handed it to Qin Feiyang and said anxiously, "Look for yourself." Qin Feiyang took the bronze mirror and looked at the face inside the bronze mirror. His expression suddenly froze. At this moment, many wrinkles had crept up on his face. And his face was obviously a little old. This, one must know. With his current cultivation, as long as he didn't want to, he would never grow old. But now, he had actually aged so much unknowingly. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look at the mermaid princess. She was still as charming as ever, without any trace of age. "You did this on purpose, right?" the mermaid princess asked. "I didn't." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Really?" The mermaid princess was a little doubtful. "Really? Do I need to lie to you about this? Besides, if I really become an old man, how can I be worthy of you?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "Then what's going on with you?" The mermaid princess looked at him in confusion. "I'm not sure either." Qin Feiyang shook his head. He had inexplicably become old in the castle, the sword of Thanatos had not returned. It was still a dark space like a maze. What was going on? Another few hundred years passed. Qin Feiyang had been observing the changes in his body. He found that not only was his face getting older and older, but he could also clearly feel a kind of twilight aura. One must know. This twilight aura would only appear on people who were about to die. Not only him, but the mermaid princess also began to feel anxious. Chapter 3674. At first, Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess hid it from Lin Yi and the others so that everyone would not worry. But seeing that the situation was getting worse and worse, knowing that it could no longer be hidden, the mermaid princess called everyone over. And now, she had no idea herself, and she needed someone to help her share the burden. When everyone entered the wooden building and saw Qin Feiyang sitting in the hall, they were stunned. How was this still the high-spirited Qin Feiyang? He was simply an old man in his twilight years. He was in his 60s or 70s, thin as a skeleton, white hair and turbid eyes. His aura was also extremely weak. "Brother Feiyang, young master." "Qin Dage, what's the matter with you?" "Sister-in-law, when did Brother Feiyang start to change?" Several people recovered and immediately surrounded Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess. Their faces were full of anxiety. "Few years ago." The mermaid princess sighed. "Why didn't you tell us earlier?" The fire lotus said angrily. "We thought it was nothing serious, but we didn't expect it to get worse." The mermaid princess was worried. What is Qin Dage's cultivation base? How can he be fine after such a sudden change? Did he take the divine life pill? The fire lotus asked. "Yes, but it's useless." The mermaid princess shook her head. The fire lotus looked dazed and hurriedly said, Then try using the law of life. The mermaid princess shivered and immediately activated the law of life. But no matter how huge the life energy was, Qin Feiyang's old and weak body showed no signs of recovery. What the hell is going on? The group was burning with anxiety. Even the law of life was useless. What else could work? Don't worry. There must be a way. Let's go out and see if there is anything that can save his life. Pei Tianhong ran out after speaking. Wang Chongyuan and Yun Zhongtian quickly gave chase as well. Fire Lotus and Lin Yi stayed in the hall. Looking at Qin Feiyang's appearance at this moment, their eyes couldn't help but become wet. During the whole process, Qin Feiyang did not say a word. He was like a man waiting for death. Qindage, can you say something too? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang anxiously. Yes, big brother Feiyang. You're so quiet. It's a little scary. Lin Yi said. How could they know that Qin Feiyang's heart had already fallen into the abyss of despair? That's right. At this moment he felt unprecedented despair. When he first discovered this, he was already thinking of ways to prevent himself from growing old. However, he had tried all sorts of methods but none of them worked. Seeing his body getting weaker and weaker, seeing death getting closer and closer, this kind of torment simply made him wish he was dead. Especially when he saw everyone's concern for him, he felt even more pained. He also wanted to know why. However, he just couldn't understand. You guys go out. I want to be alone. Qin Feiyang sighed after a long time. Even his voice was hoarse and weak. The three women looked at each other, got up and walked out of the hall. They stood in the courtyard outside, all frowning. Another day passed. Qin Feiyang already had white hair, a wrinkled face and skinny body. He even needed a crutch to get up. And, not only his physical body had aged to the extreme, but even his memory was slowly deteriorating. Even his consciousness had become muddled. Pei Tianhong and the other two also traveled all over the Black Tortoise world, thinking of various life-saving methods, but it was useless. Don't waste your energy. Even the life law is useless. What else can save my life? You guys sit down and listen to me. On this day, Qin Feiyang sat in the courtyard, keeping Pei Tianhong and the other two. Because he felt that his life had been completely exhausted, it would be too late if he didn't say anything. But the three were anxious. They couldn't just sit here and wait for death. At first, I was indeed in despair and pain, because I still have a lot of unfulfilled wishes. I haven't left behind a child or a daughter, and I haven't enjoyed life with the woman I love. Qin Feiyang trembled as he reached out his old hand and grabbed the hand of the mermaid princess who was sitting beside him. The mermaid princess was already in tears. But slowly, I gradually thought it through. So what if I'm in despair? So what if I'm in pain? It's a fact that can't be changed. It's better to face it calmly. After all, in this life, one will die sooner or later. Moreover, don't I still have you guys to accompany me now? At least I won't be alone for the rest of my life. And I believe that you guys will definitely help me fulfill my unfulfilled wishes. The only regret is that I didn't return to Great Qin before I died to see my father, mother, great-grandfather, Lu Hong, little cousin, Fatso, Ling Yunfei, and my brothers and sisters Qin Haoyan, Qin Feiyang whispered. It took him a very long time to finish his words intermittently. Don't say any more. Please don't say any more. Have a good rest. The mermaid princess grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand and looked at the old face with tears in her eyes. Her heart ached. If you don't say any more, I'm afraid I won't pay attention to you anymore. Qin Feiyang smiled hoarsely, looked at Pei Tianhong and the other two and said, You are all free in the future, but I sincerely hope that you can put the world's people first. We will. The three nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Lin Yi and Fire Lotus again and said with a smile, You are not young anymore. You should solve your marriage as soon as possible. It's just a pity that I can't see it with my own eyes. The two women lowered their heads and sobbed silently. Tears flowed down their faces. Don't cry. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly and looked at the mermaid princess again, saying, You have worked hard in this life. If there is an afterlife, I will put everything down and accompany you well. I don't want an afterlife. I want this life. The mermaid princess shook her head. There is no hope in this life. In the future, take good care of yourself. Help me again. Tell senior brother Fengzi, the white-eyed wolf, you must drive away the divine kingdom, and protect the people of the Sky Cloud realm. Defeat Ice Dragon and Small Beast, take back Chang Shui. Finally, bring my body back to Great Qin. Great Qin is my root, my home. I want to be buried in my homeland. Qin Feiyong smiled and slowly looked up at the sky, like a wanderer eager to go home. The scene was also frozen here. At this moment, time in the void seemed to be still. The mermaid princess's gaze trembled. She held the gradually stiff and cold hand and burst into tears. Qin Dage. Young master? Brother Feiyong? Lin Yi and others looked at the motionless Qin Feiyong and also shouted carefully. However, looking at the sky, Qin Feiyong, who had a smile on his face, did not answer. Qin Dage, wake up, wake up! Fire Lotus roared and threw herself on the ground. She grabbed Qin Feiyong's other hand and burst into tears. Lin Yi, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan and Yun Zhongtian also silently shed tears. Heaven is jealous of geniuses. Heaven is jealous of geniuses. Suddenly, Yun Zhongtian raised his head and roared, devastated. But they didn't know that an invisible shadow floated out from Qin Feiyong's body. This shadow floated above Qin Feiyong's head and gradually turned into a person. It was the old Qin Feiyong. I'm not dead. Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback. When he saw the mermaid princess and others crying bitterly, he hurriedly shouted, "What are you crying for? I'm not dead yet." However, the mermaid princess and others did not respond. What's going on? Qin Feiyong frowned and looked at himself. Could it be that everyone couldn't see him now? Suddenly, he saw himself sitting on the chair and looking up at the sky. His gaze suddenly trembled. He was already dead. The current him was just a wandering soul. Everyone couldn't see him at all, nor could they hear his voice. Don't cry. All of you must live happily. Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. It was also at this moment. In the void behind him, a black vortex appeared. An aura of death enveloped him, and Qin Feiyong was immediately sucked into the vortex. His eyes fell into darkness once again. What is this? Where are you taking me? Qin Feiyong muttered. It felt like a moment but also like a few centuries. In front of him, a blood-red world suddenly appeared. The sky was blood-red. The mountains and rivers were also blood-red. The void was filled with a blood mist that couldn't be dispersed. And in this world there were countless wandering souls like him. He could see everyone and everyone could see him. However, they didn't communicate and flew in a direction ahead. Could this be hell? Qin Feiyong looked at all of this in a daze. Although in this life there were indeed many creatures that died in his hands, but he had also done a lot of good things. Not to mention entering heaven, but it shouldn't be to the extent of being beaten to hell. Crack! Suddenly, a blood-red thunderbolt fell from the sky, striking towards Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong was shocked and hurriedly dodged, because this blood-red thunderbolt brought a fatal crisis to him. However, the blood-red thunderbolt firmly locked onto him. No matter how he dodged, he couldn't avoid it. Even in hell you won't let me go? Qin Feiyong roared. The wandering souls around looked at this scene, but no one paid attention to it. They all silently flew forward. Is it driving me away? Qin Feiyong frowned and also flew forward with the other wandering souls. The blood-red thunderbolt really disappeared. He understood. I didn't want him to stay here. But what was ahead? The Bridge of Helplessness? Mengpa? The Gate of Reincarnation? Or the 18 Levels of Hell? These legendary places appeared one by one in Qin Feiyong's mind. A moment later, a huge stone door appeared in front of him. The stone door was 999 zhang high, dark red all over. There were two huge skulls engraved on it, emitting a gloomy and terrifying aura. This is... Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled. Wasn't this the Gate of Hell? The fifth profound of the law of death was this Gate of Hell. He actually had to go to hell? Very quickly Qin Feiyong saw that all of the wandering souls were flying toward the Hell's Gate. After entering, they let out miserable shrieks one after another. Chapter 3675. It's really scary. Even with Qin Feiyong's temperament, he couldn't help but feel afraid. After all, the words Gate of Hell were enough to make people feel awe, because everyone in the world had heard a lot of legends about hell, especially in the secular world. Some elders would even use these things to scare disobedient descendants. At the same time, when the other wandering souls saw this scene, their eyes were full of fear. Many wandering souls stopped outside the gate of hell and didn't dare to enter. Crack! The familiar blood-red lightning struck again, locking on those wandering souls who stayed outside and didn't enter. Some wandering souls immediately ran to the gate of hell. Some wandering souls were unwilling to go in. Boom! As the blood-red lightning struck, the wandering souls who didn't enter were turned into ashes on the spot. Qin Feiyang quivered. This blood-red lightning was too scary. When it was his turn, he was very calm. He directly jumped and entered the gate of hell. Before he died, he had already seen through life and death. Naturally, he wasn't afraid now. Besides, he wanted to see what was at the end of the gate of hell. Inside the gate of hell there was a blood-red world like a sea of blood. Crack! Boom! There were countless thunderbolts roaring all around. But all the wandering souls who were struck by the thunderbolts screamed as if they were being tortured. And their bodies would also be seriously injured, and their wandering souls would become weaker and weaker. However, it wasn't fatal. So far, Qin Feiyang hadn't seen a wandering soul being crushed by the thunderbolts. Qin Feiyang flashed again and again, but he was still accidentally hit by a thunderbolt. Although he was only a wandering soul, he could still feel a tearing pain. And he could feel that a lot of his memories seemed to have disappeared. Is this erasing the memories of his life? It can't be. Legend has it that one has to drink Mengpo's soup to erase the memories of his life. It seems that legends are legends after all. Qin Feiyang muttered. He didn't know how long had passed. He was struck by more than a dozen thunderbolts one after another. Most of his memories had been erased. He had forgotten many people and many things. But the end of the gate of hell hadn't appeared yet. Could it be that I have to erase all my memories of my life to see the end? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. No, even if he had to fall into hell, he had to bring his memories with him. There were some things that he could not forget. As if sensing the determination in Qin Feiyang's heart, the surrounding lightning energy immediately began to bombard Qin Feiyang in a densely packed manner. Qin Feiyang kept dodging and fleeing frantically. However, there was simply too much lightning in the surroundings. Just as he was about to be engulfed, a stone door suddenly appeared in front of him. The stone gate was also 999 zhang tall, like a towering mountain. However, it was different from the gate of hell. This stone door was as white as jade and emitted a sacred glow. Before he even got close, Qin Feiyang felt a warm feeling in his heart, as if he had returned to his mother's embrace. Above the stone door, there were two large words that shone with divine light. Samsara. Samsara. Qin Feiyang caught these two words before he was engulfed by the blood-red lightning. His mind immediately buzzed. The end of the gate of hell was actually the gate of reincarnation. What was reincarnation? It was reincarnation. It was the place where one's life began. The gate of hell was the place where one's life and death ended. In other words, death and new life were linked together. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was suddenly enlightened as if he had been enlightened. The end of death was not the end but rebirth. The end of rebirth was also not the end but the final death. The two were dependent on each other, and the cycle repeated. This was reincarnation. This was life and death. As all the fog dispersed, two auras emerged around Qin Feiyang. One was the aura of life. The other was the aura of death. Life and death were originally incompatible with each other. However, at this moment, they were intertwined on Qin Feiyang's body and accompanied each other. It was also at this moment. Boom! Two terrifying auras emerged. The lightning that engulfed Qin Feiyang immediately disintegrated. The gate of reincarnation, the blood-red world, also began to collapse. The wandering souls in the sky were also dissipating, like a mirror that was broken. In the end, everything disappeared, and a bright world appeared in front of him. Right in the center of this world, two glowing words floated in the air. On the left was death. On the right was life. Every stroke seemed to contain the Tao of life and death. This is... Qin Feiyang looked at these two words. As the gate of reincarnation and the blood-red world collapsed, the erased memories returned one after another. If his memory was correct, these two words in front of him seemed to be the life and death of the six-word divine formula. as the life and death of the six-word divine formula were personally copied by him. It had long been engraved in his mind. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was bewildered. He remembered that when these two words were copied, they directly merged into his body and disappeared, but why did they appear now? Wait a minute. Could it be related to his previous comprehension? The profound meaning of life and death, which was also the law of life and death. After comprehending the profound meaning of life and death, these two words appeared. Could it be? As he thought, these two words represented the profound meaning of life and death? No. If it was just the profound meaning of life and death, he should have comprehended it long ago. Could it be? Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at the two big words. Was this the epitome of the law of life and death? Before he could even think about it carefully, the two characters actually fused together and transformed into a strand of the energy of life and death that surged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang did not dodge, because this force of life and death not only did not bring him any danger, but it also gave him an incomparable sense of intimacy. In the end, the force of life and death drowned Qin Feiyang, not leaving a single bit of it to merge with Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang only felt as if he was bathing in the sunshine of February, incomparably warm. In the next moment, another white vortex appeared in the sky, emitting a sacred aura. Qin Feiyang was immediately sucked into the vortex uncontrollably. This time, there were no negative emotions of despair or fear. On the contrary, it was as if he had ascended to immortality. His whole body was comfortable. Very soon, a familiar scene appeared. Devil's Land. A courtyard filled with birds and fragrant flowers. Lin Yi, who fell into sorrow, Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, Yun Zhongtian, and himself, who was sitting on a chair, looking up at the sky with a smile on his face. I'm back again. Qin Feiyang floated in the air, and a smile gradually appeared on his face. However, when he was about to speak, he found that everything in front of him began to fade and become blurred. How could this be? He began to feel a little anxious, because even the Black Tortoise World, Mermaid Princess, and others were fading as if they were evaporating. My eyes, suddenly. He waved his hand, and the void turned into a mirror. Looking at himself in the mirror, he looked slightly stunned. At this time, his eyes showed a black and white brilliance, like a Tai Chi pattern. What is this? Could it be that everything I see now has something to do with these eyes? This is the eyes of life and death. As long as the force of life and death is mastered, the eyes of life and death can be born. The eyes of life and death can see through the mysteries of heaven and see through all illusions. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded in the void. The Shadowless? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. This is the voice of Gus Ho. Child, you finally awakened. This is the true law of life and death. Gus Ho chuckled. The true law of life and death. Qin Feiyang muttered. That's right. Although there are many people in this world who have mastered the law of life and the law of death, they are unable to fuse these two forces. A single law of death and the law of life is only an ultimate law. But after the fusion, the law of life and death has already surpassed the limit of the ultimate law, and is the strongest law in the world. Gus Ho laughed. Strongest? Strongest? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. In fact, the life and death of the six-word divine formula contains the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Of course, it can also be said to be a miniature version. Only when you comprehend the law of life and death will this miniature version truly fuse with you. Gus Ho said. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and looked at the Black Tortoise World, the Mermaid Princess, and the others again. Everything was about to fade away. Turns out that all of this is just an illusion. Qin Feiyang muttered. But even if it's just an illusion, he can't bear to destroy it, because this is what he cares about in his heart. Sigh. After a long time, Qin Feiyang sighed faintly. With a wave of his hand, the world in front of him immediately collapsed. At the same time, the square. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and looked forward. The stone door in the middle of the square didn't disappear. It was still a dark area all around. However, just as Qin Feiyang broke the illusion and opened his eyes, the tightly closed stone door slowly opened with a bang. Scary, right? Gus Ho and Shinigami Sword both appeared from Qin Feiyang's body and floated beside Qin Feiyang. Scary. Qin Feiyang nodded. From the moment he stepped into the square, he had already fallen into the illusion. Moreover, every person that appeared in the illusion, every scene, was what he had always cared about in his heart. It could be said that it directly touched the heart without any flaws. It made people naturally think that all of this was real, and that they were living in the illusion, unable to extricate themselves. If it wasn't for him comprehending the law of life and death at the critical moment and opening his eye of life and death to see through the illusion, he would have died in the illusion. This should be the test to enter the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Only by passing the test could one enter the Divine Treasure. If one didn't pass, they would definitely die here. The Sky Bell Divine Treasure was indeed extraordinary. The stone door had been completely opened, revealing a dim world. The mountains and rivers were dilapidated, and the ground was barren. From afar, one could see ancient and dilapidated cities and fortresses. As far as the eye could see, there wasn't a single figure. This was a true purgatory of death. Desolate, dilapidated. The Sky Bell Divine Treasure is really a place that makes one look forward to it. The castle and the Grim Reaper's sword smiled and returned to Qin Feiyang's body. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and raised his arm. A wisp of black and white force appeared in his palm. This was the fused force of life and death. From the aura, it was really much stronger than the strongest law. Qin Feiyang asked, after the fusion, can I still activate the law of death or the law of life alone? Of course. The castle replied. It can. Qin Feiyang was quite surprised and said, then now, doesn't that mean that I have mastered the law of death, the law of life, and the law of life and death at the same time? Yes. And the epitome of the law of life and death will also be helpful to your comprehension of the law of life and the law of death. In other words, now not only have you comprehended these three laws, but you have also obtained the epitome of these three laws. It can be said that this is the greatest fortune you have received in your life, the castle said. As expected, fortune and misfortune come hand in hand. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. The power of life and death in his hand dissipated. He looked up at the dark sky above and muttered, why did you leave me this epitome of the law of life and death? The six-word divine formula and the pill scripture were both created by the God of creation. And the six-word divine formula had always been in the castle, accompanying him to this world. Therefore, this must be related to the God of creation. But what was his relationship with the God of creation? Could it be all along he had been wrong in his judgment? Although the castle, the six-word divine formula, and Changshui were all created by the God of creation, they were not given to him by the God of creation? Just like the pill scripture. Although it was also created by the God of creation, it ended up wandering among the common people. In the end, he obtained it by chance. In other words, was it possible that the castle and Changshui were also wandering among the common people for some reason, and finally appeared in the Great Qin with his birth due to some unknown factors? My head hurts. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead and temporarily put down the doubts in his heart. The eye of life and death also disappeared, and his eyes returned to their original appearance. Then he took a step forward and crossed the stone door, stepping into the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. Chapter 3676. The Broken Land. The desolate mountains and rivers were filled with a tragic aura. When Qin Feiyang stepped into the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, the stone door behind him immediately closed with a clang. Before he could observe his surroundings, a sense of crisis rose in his heart. This made him quite puzzled. He didn't see any living creatures at all before, so why would he feel a sense of crisis? Boom! The next moment, a terrifying murderous aura shrouded over. Qin Feiyang turned around to look behind, and a trace of bewilderment crept up in his eyes. Not far behind there was a broken giant mountain about thousands of feet high, and there was a huge skeleton at the peak of the mountain. That's right. It was a skeleton. And it was the skeleton of a fierce beast, with a body size of hundreds of feet. The white bones emitted a gloomy and cold aura. A skeleton actually contained such a terrifying murderous aura? Qin Feiyang was in disbelief. And the sense of crisis he felt also came from this skeleton. What's going on? With a trace of vigilance and curiosity, he was ready to fly towards the peak of the mountain. But at this moment, crack crack, accompanied by the sound of bones colliding, The skeleton on the peak of the mountain actually moved, slowly raising that huge head. What the hell? Qin Feiyang was shocked. Very soon, the skeleton's head was raised high. Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and there were actually 2 clusters of fire floating in the skeleton's eye sockets. The skeleton gave birth to spiritual wisdom? Human suddenly. The skeleton actually let out intermittent hideous laughter, and its body also stood up mechanically. The 2 clusters of fire in its eye sockets were like ghost flames jumping, looking quite terrifying. Whether you are a human or a ghost, you better not provoke me. Qin Feiyang calmed down after being shocked. Although this skeleton gave him a very dangerous feeling, after all his current strength was in front of him. He was at the peak sovereign realm and had mastered 3 great profound meanings. Why would he be afraid of a mere skeleton? Human, blood. The skeleton turned a deaf ear, and the fire in its eye sockets jumped even more fiercely, as if it had seen a delicacy. There was even a bloodthirsty aura on its body. Boom! The next moment, the skeleton stomped on the mountain peak, and the shattered giant peak under its feet shattered on the spot. Following closely, the skeleton soared into the sky, letting out a hideous laugh like a ghost, and pounced on Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. The power of laws surged. But suddenly, his brows furrowed as he shut down the power of law and attacked the skeleton with his bare hands. Since he had just arrived at this place, he naturally had to figure out the situation first. Since the skeleton was the first living being he encountered here, he might as well test its strength first. What was so special about it? Clang! When he punched, Qin Feiyang felt as if he had punched metal. The hardness of the skeleton was beyond his imagination. One had to know. His current physical body had already reached the level of a supreme being. Even if it was the 5th profundity of the law, even if it was a supreme-level heaven-defying divine artifact, it would still be able to compete. However, in the face of such a powerful physical body and strength, the skeleton opposite him was only pushed back, and the bones did not crack at all. A mere skeleton could actually reach this level? Boom! A terrifying aura rushed out from his body. This was the aura of his physical body and strength. That's right. Previously he did not use his full strength. But at this moment, he unleashed all the power of his physical body and punched out again. Human, blood. The skeleton laughed sinisterly. It raised its bone claws mechanically and slapped at Qin Feiyang. Compared to the size of the 2, it was like an ant and an elephant. However, Qin Feiyang, who was at full strength, relied on the power of this punch and forcibly shattered the skeleton's bone claws. It hasn't reached the level of a supreme being. It's almost at the legendary level, Qin Feiyang murmured. But even so, it was amazing enough. After all, even in the sky cloud realm, there were not many who could break the limit of the physical body, let alone upgrade the physical body to the legendary level. Even a skeleton here was so terrifying. But, although the skeleton's bone claws were shattered, it did not retreat in the slightest and once again charged at Qin Feiyang. It was as if it couldn't feel pain, nor was it aware of the disparity in strength. It was completely acting on instinct. Qin Feiyang was not in the mood to play anymore. The terrifying power turned into an invisible torrent, roaring out from his fist and blasted at the skeleton's head. But at this moment, black energy surged out of the skeleton on the other side. The originally dim world immediately fell into darkness. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded, full of disbelief. It was actually the power of the law of darkness. A skeleton actually mastered the law of darkness? Skeletons were formed after the death of a living creature. A skeleton that had gained sentience was just a slightly stronger skeleton. There was a good saying, a person dying was like a lamp going out. Whether it was a human or a beast, as long as they died, all the means they mastered before their death would disappear. In other words, even if the skeleton gave birth to spiritual wisdom, it was impossible for it to comprehend the law. It was really too strange. Caught off guard, coupled with the distraction, the skeleton actually avoided the invisible force. Its mechanical movements gradually became smoother after 2 exchanges. It took a step out and landed behind Qin Feiyang. The other bone claw was raised, carrying the monstrous power of darkness, and charged at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang hurriedly raised his arm and blasted at the skeleton. Puff! Immediately, his body shook. and a mouthful of purple gold dragon blood spurted out. He retreated dozens of miles before stabilizing his footsteps. When he looked up at the skeleton again, his face suddenly changed. The skeleton stretched out its bone claw and grabbed the purple gold dragon blood. Then, under Qin Feiyang's gaze, the purple gold dragon blood was absorbed by the skeleton without leaving a single drop. As the purple gold dragon blood was absorbed, the bone that was shattered before was reconstructed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Moreover, Qin Feiyang also noticed that the fire in the skeleton's eye sockets was more vigorous. Fresh blood, what a huge energy! After tasting the purple gold dragon blood, the skeleton seemed to be very excited. The law of darkness rolled out and pounced at Qin Feiyang crazily. Qin Feiyang could roughly understand. The skeleton was saying that his purple gold dragon blood contained a huge amount of energy. However, this skeleton could actually absorb blood to repair its own injuries, and it seemed to be able to enhance its own strength by absorbing blood? This was really unexpected. Might as well. He cut his wrist and waved his hand. A large amount of purple gold dragon blood rushed toward the skeleton. The skeleton was extremely excited and rushed forward. The purple gold dragon blood sprinkled on its body, and then it was absorbed by the skeleton without leaving a single drop behind. Qin Feiyang immediately discovered. The more purple gold dragon blood it absorbed, the more vigorous the fire in the skeleton's eye sockets. As the fire flourished, the aura became stronger. Sure enough, this skeleton could enhance its own strength by absorbing blood. Give it to me, all give it to me. The skeleton let out an extremely eager roar. Humph! Qin Feiyang snorted from his nose and activated the law of thunder. Waves of thunder power, carrying a destructive aura, rushed toward the skeleton. Generally speaking, thunder was the nemesis of evil. However, at this moment the skeleton didn't even have the slightest fear. It directly activated the power of darkness and flooded the sky, colliding with the power of thunder. Dozens of breaths passed. After a battle, Qin Feiyang finally figured out the strength of this skeleton. Although the skeleton was very hard, and although it had mastered the law of darkness, it had not mastered the profound meaning of the law, nor did it have divine arts or divine artifacts. From the looks of it, it was just a relatively powerful skeleton. However, don't underestimate it because of this. After all, it was facing Qin Feiyang now. Qin Feiyang's strength and methods had now reached the peak. Except for the sovereign divine weapon and the ultimate profound meaning, no one was his opponent. So naturally he was qualified to look down on this skeleton. But if it was in the human world, with the ability of this skeleton, it was enough to slaughter a party. Although there were also many supreme experts in the human world, but one had to know that the skeleton could grow by absorbing the blood of living creatures. If it kept slaughtering and absorbing, no one knew how strong it would become in the end. So, it was not impossible for it to slaughter a party in the end. After thoroughly understanding the strength of the skeleton, Qin Feiyang no longer held back. The law of thunder's supreme profound meaning was activated and instantly shattered the skeleton. The two clusters of fire wanted to escape. Qin Feiyang took a step forward, raised his big hand, and grabbed it in his palm. Just as he was about to crush it, his expression suddenly froze. Why could he feel the aura of the law from the fire? He waved his hand and a thunder barrier appeared, trapping the two clusters of fire inside. Don't kill me! The two clusters of fire rampaged in the barrier, and there was a cry of fear. Qin Feiyang was surprised. It turned out that the consciousness of the skeleton was hidden in these two clusters of fire. And in the two clusters of fire, there was indeed the aura of the law, and it was the law of darkness that the skeleton had mastered. The law, the consciousness were actually all in these two clusters of fire? Could it be that these flames were the divine soul of the skeleton? Qin Feiyang studied it for a while. It was indeed a bit like the divine soul, but it was different from ordinary divine souls because it also contained the aura of the undead. It was somewhat similar to the aura of the fire lotus when it was still an undead. Qin Dage. Suddenly, a voice sounded not far away. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. Why was this voice so familiar? Turning his head, he saw a young man in red standing in the void not far behind him. Red clothes, red hair, red eyes. He was like a demon king with a murderous aura. Li Feng? Qin Feiyang frowned. It's me. Li Feng nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang across the void. But if one observed carefully, one would find that from time to time, he would glance at the two clusters of fire trapped in the thunder barrier, with a trace of desire in his eyes. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Feng. Could it be another illusion? Once bitten, twice shy. In this place one had to be careful. The life and death eye opened, and the black and white power of life and death filled the eye socket. This pair of eyes, when Li Feng saw the life and death eye, his face suddenly had a trace of surprise. Chapter 3677. Under this pair of eyes, he felt as if there were no secrets on his body. Qin Feiyang also had a trace of surprise in his eyes. At this moment Li Feng was like a transparent person in front of him. The power of law, divine soul, and even the spatial divine item hidden in his body could be seen clearly. Li Feng had mastered a total of 6 laws. They were the slaughter law, darkness law, force law, devour law, death law, spacetime law. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. This brat actually grasped 3 of the strongest laws? It was really far beyond his expectations. To be honest, although he treated Li Feng as a younger brother, Li Feng's talent was really not that good. But now, he actually activated 3 supreme laws. Wasn't his luck too heaven-defying? Even he and Frenzy didn't have such good luck in the past. Wait a minute. Could it be related to the blood ancestor? Or, the 3 supreme laws weren't comprehended by Li Feng himself but were inherited? Qin Feiyang continued to observe. Very soon, he actually relied on the eye of life and death to distinguish the strength of Li Feng's 6 supreme laws. Devour law, death law, spacetime law, force law. These 4 supreme laws had already reached the 5th profound. The law of slaughter, on the other hand, had already reached the level of supreme profundity. As for the darkness law, it had only reached the 3rd profound. It was still a distance away from the 5th profound. In other words, the last time they met in the northern continent, Li Feng had broken through another small realm. Because at that time in the northern continent, Li Feng's cultivation was only at the Great Mastery Dominator realm, but now he was already at the Great Mastery Dominator realm. He was only 1 step away from the Great Mastery Dominator realm. When he comprehended the 5th profound of the darkness law, he would officially step into the peak of the Sky Cloud realm and be comparable to Wang Chongyuan, because he had already mastered a supreme profound. Not bad. Qin Feiyang secretly muttered and looked at the spatial divine item, hidden between Li Feng's eyebrows. The spatial divine item that was originally like a speck of dust, was now completely displayed in front of his eye of life and death. He could even distinguish its grade. This was a spatial divine item shaped like a stone tower. Its grade wasn't high and was very ordinary. Can you see through the things inside the spatial divine object? Qin Feiyang suddenly had a thought. The black and white taiji patterns in his eyes gave off an intense light. Gradually, the spatial divine object also became transparent. Qin Feiyang could see the things inside the spatial divine item with a single glance. You can even do that? Qin Feiyang was shocked. The eye of life and death that could see through the secrets of the heavens and see through illusions was too heaven-defying. At this moment, Li Feng felt it even more vividly. It was as if he had been stripped naked, and a feeling of terror involuntarily emerged in his heart. Qin Feiyang calmly looked at Li Feng's spatial divine item. Although it was a little inappropriate to pry into other people's privacy, he was truly curious about Li Feng. Li Feng's spatial divine item wasn't big. It was only about 300 meters in size. It was like a secret chamber. Inside, there were 2 futons. It was probably used by Li Feng and the blood ancestor for cultivation. Next to it there was a tea table and 3 chairs. There were 6 wine jars on the table, all of which hadn't been opened yet. I didn't expect this kid to like drinking too, Qin Feiyang muttered. In addition to that, there was also a small cabinet placed in the corner. The cabinet wasn't covered, and there were items like interspatial rings and interspatial bags inside. It should be Li Feng's private treasure house. Then there was nothing else. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Feng's Sea of Qi again. There were 2 divine artifacts in his Sea of Qi. One was an armor and the other was a divine weapon. They were both supreme divine artifacts. This was all Li Feng had. Qin Dage. Li Feng couldn't bear the pressure brought by the eye of life and death and shouted. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and closed the Eye of Life and Death. He was quite excited. He really didn't expect the Eye of Life and Death to be so powerful. In the future, what secrets would others have in front of him? Could be said that. Now the Eye of Life and Death had become his biggest trump card. So there was no place to hide. Looking at the silent Qin Feiyang, Li Feng's heart gradually began to panic. He suddenly turned around and left as if he was fleeing for his life. "Come back!" Qin Feiyang shouted. Li Feng's body stiffened, and he turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang in awe. "What are you afraid of?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Li Feng hesitated and mustered up his courage. "Your eyes made me a little scared." "You also have times when you are scared?" Qin Feiyang snorted and said angrily. "Didn't you hear me call you over?" Li Feng lowered his head and walked in front of Qin Feiyang, like a child who had done something wrong. "Why did you come to the Heaven Bell Divine Treasure? Where's the Blood Ancestor?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I came in after you entered the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure. As for the Blood Ancestor, I don't know where he is, because I was the only one left after entering the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure. I heard the Blood Ancestor say that this place seems to be random," Li Feng said. Qin Feiyang asked, "Do Little Rabbit and Feather Emperor know that you came in?" Li Feng thought for a moment and said, "Dragon King, Feng Ho, Qilin Master, Little Rabbit, and Feather Emperor were all still there at that time. They should have seen it." "They didn't stop you?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "We entered the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure as soon as we appeared. They couldn't stop us in time." There was a trace of pride in Li Feng's expression. "Don't be proud." Qin Feiyang glanced at him indifferently, and his expression suddenly froze as he asked, "You just said that the Blood Ancestor knows that this place is random?" "That's what he said. And he also told me to be careful. Before entering the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure, there will be a first test." Li Feng nodded. "What? He even knows this?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. One had to know. Even Little Rabbit and Feather Emperor didn't tell him in advance about the first test to enter the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure. They probably wanted him to pass the test with his own ability. But how did the Blood Ancestor know? To be honest, although I have followed the Blood Ancestor for so long, I don't know anything about him. However, he seems to be very familiar with the Sky Cloud realm. Li Feng frowned. "Familiar?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. "Yes. And he seems to know the existence of the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure from the beginning. Because at that time, when the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure appeared, he didn't go to Sky Cloud Island to see it with his own eyes. He directly told me that the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure had appeared. And he asked me to prepare to enter the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure. He also told me a lot about the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure." Li Feng said. "He actually knows about the Heaven Burial Divine Treasure." Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. It seemed that the Blood Ancestor was really related to the Sky Cloud realm. And his origin wasn't small. Qin Feiyang asked, "Then what did he do with you all these years?" "Besides cultivation, there was nothing else." Li Feng shook his head. "Why did he ask you to cultivate?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. "I don't know. But he told me that he would tell me the truth when I break through to the Sovereign Realm," Li Feng said. "The truth?" Qin Feiyang murmured, his eyes full of expectation. What was the truth? He looked up at Li Feng and said with a faint smile, "The law of darkness has already reached the third profound, and the Sovereign Realm is not far away." "How do you know?" Li Feng looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. "The law of darkness, the law of force, the law of slaughter, the law of spacetime, the law of devour, the law of death. These are your 6 great laws," Qin Feiyang said indifferently. "And you know so much?" Li Feng was very surprised. Could it be that Qin Dage had been secretly monitoring him? "Don't think too much. I don't have the energy to monitor you. But I hope that no matter what happens in the end, you'd better stay away from the Blood Ancestor," Qin Feiyang said. "When I step into the Sovereign Realm and know the truth, I will consider it." Li Feng nodded. He was very puzzled. How did Big Brother Qin know that he had grasped the power of laws? Because even when he faced the white-eyed wolf in the Death Glacier, he had only shown the law of space and the law of slaughter. "Then what are you going to do next?" Qin Feiyang asked. Li Feng hesitated. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, Say what you want to say. Li Feng lowered his head and said, It's dangerous to be alone, so I want to go with Qin Dage. Go with me? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. Li Feng nodded and looked nervously at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang glared at him and said, Based on my temper in the past, I would have killed you with one slap. Li Feng's neck shrank. Although he was not weak now, in front of Qin Feiyang, he was not enough. As for him, he was also aware of his own limitations. Looking at this submissive little guy in front of him, Qin Feiyang could not help but laugh in his heart. A demon who killed people like Scything Flax actually had such a side? You can go with me. But don't drag me down, Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Li Feng was stunned for a moment and was immediately overjoyed. He nodded and said, I will definitely work hard. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He turned to look at the 2 clusters of fire trapped in the lightning barrier. Don't kill me, the fire was still wailing. Qin Feiyang raised his hand and was about to crush the fire. Li Feng hurriedly said, Qin Dage, give it to me. Give it to you? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Li Feng nodded. Qin Feiyang frowned. With a wave of his hand, the lightning barrier dissipated. The 2 clusters of fire immediately wanted to escape. Stay. Li Feng snorted coldly. A blood-red vortex appeared between his eyebrows, emitting a bloody aura. After the blood-red vortex appeared, a blood-red light gushed out from the vortex. It turned out to be a blood-red hand. It was like a ghostly hand from hell. It grabbed the escaping fire, and then the blood-red hand returned to the blood-red vortex with the fire. The vortex also disappeared. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Feng's eyebrows with a face full of surprise. He actually swallowed 2 clusters of fire. What did that mean? After swallowing the 2 clusters of fire, Li Feng closed his eyes. There seemed to be a trace of enjoyment and intoxication on his face. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang became more and more puzzled. The eye of life and death opened again. He immediately saw an extremely strange scene in Li Feng's body. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.